back broke, halfway, lost hope and I checked it. Hard roads, I didn't think I'd come back fast. Cause I was running road so many nations. Even when it's so sweet, I ended up zero. This is such a ghostly revelation. I may have fucked up all my chances, Been around the globe, looked around, nothing fitted. Seen high and lows, but you won't even get it. Been around the globe, think it's time to admit it's not the end, but the road, and you won't even get it. Been around the globe, looked around, nothing fitted. Seen high and lows, but you won't even get it. Been around the globe, think it's time to admit it's not the end, but the road. I was running, I was running road so many nations. Even when it's so sweet, I end up zero. This is such a ghostly revelation. I may have fucked up all my chances, fucked up all my chances. Yes, I was running, I know, I know. Yeah, yeah. Black sheep, black sheep, black sheep, black sheep. I don't even write no more, man.
Tell him, yo,
God,
can't you come
yeah.
over?
On my conscious shit commando. Yeah. Pulling up with clips extendo. That's no game Nintendo. I don't ever run out of ammo. I'm gon' need me a benzo. No fake friends, no pretend. Yo, think I might have found my 10. Posted up in my tent. Watch your man go dumb, go stupid. If you're the best, then prove it. Got no words, be quiet, stay moving. I got a bag, won't lose it. Watch your man go dumb, go stupid. If you're the best, then prove it. Got no words, be quiet, stay moving. I got a bag, won't lose it. Lose it. Niggas get substituted. Nigga, you're not recruited. Cause you're too damn scared to use it. The truth is, you're useless. What? I'm ruthless. Yeah, I've proved this. Keep capping, I'ma leave you toothless. What? You're so dumb to choose this. Yeah. Ain't going outside, I make it work. I'm in my bag. That's every purse on my back. Is that your girl? She got an ass, she make it twerk. And why you mad? I got her first. You say you rap, you got a verse. I say the swag, you probably hurt. Back to the lab, you gotta search. On my conscious shit commando. Yeah. Pulling up with clips extendo. That's no game Nintendo. I don't ever run out of ammo. I'm gon' need me a benzo. No fake friends, no pretend. Yo, think I might have found my 10. Posted up in my tent. Watch your man go dumb, go stupid. If you're the best, then prove it. Got no words, be quiet, stay moving. I got a bag, won't lose it. Watch your man go dumb, go stupid. If you're the best, then prove it. Got no words, be quiet, stay moving. I got a bag, won't lose it.
Why are these boys so stupid? Kinda me out now, I'm kinda my money. I'm probably gon' cop me a new wrist. Y'all gon' think I'm a nuisance. New sound, know me, who this? Yeah, bitch, I made some improvements. Me and the gang been bowling. Your shawty gon' think we're the coolest. Elizay say we got.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We've got another day, and it's our last day here of the ESL 1 Malaysia Southeast Asian closed qualifiers. John, it's time to find out who will be taking that last slot, Talon, up against Polaris. But first off, how are you doing today, mate?
Doing good, Aries. You know, we had quite the wild ride throughout these closed qualifiers already. Polaris taking that great win over T1. I don't think a lot of people expected that, but T1, they had a little bit of a roster shakeup, and so did Polaris, and it seems to have revitalized that team. So we'll see if Polaris can bring that same game they brought out up against T1 today up. Going to be just as tough of an opponent. Some would argue that Talon might be a little bit better off, as they are in a major, of course. So this should be an exciting series to watch out for. And, you know, for anyone who's missing out, and this is a fight for qualification because Boom has qualified. There were some changes with ESL 1 Malaysia and a certain invited team, we don't know who, but that has allowed Boom to just qualify, and now the lower bracket finals is also a qualification match.
Yeah, which puts us in a exciting spot. Although I was very much looking forward to the best of 5 for that. Only one slot to determine, but it's nice that we get a little bit more Southeast Asian representation, especially at a Malaysian tournament as well. But like you said, Polaris, they've been making a pretty decent run. You're toppling T1 in that lower bracket. We've also seen them so far. They've been able to beat Summit, TNC. So they've been looking pretty solid. This is a new roster as well. Force coming back. I suppose, of course, they were playing with Nevermind for a little bit, but really the main thing to be looking at is AU playing for them. And you had the opportunity to cast their series versus T1. Have you been impressed with AU's performance so far coming in?
It's been pretty solid. He plays some mean clockwork. AU is not a complete stranger to the team. He was coaching Polaris for quite some time as well. So him stepping into the active player role, it's not too bad. It's still something he can execute well. He knows the team. He knows how to play around him. He is their mastermind behind the scenes. So I think going forward, we'll have to see that stay steady. We have to see that consistent performance, as there are arguments to be made about some of the early opponents of Polaris up until T1, although TNC did look like a revitalized team as well. So we'll see if they maintain that. Again, Talon, this is a team that placed fairly well in the DPC. Number 2, tiebreakers with Boom didn't go their way, and the rematch here in the upper bracket fights also didn't quite go their way. But on paper, Talon might still be the favorable team here.
Yeah, I think if you're just looking at past experience and the past results, I should say, really, between these two teams overall. So we'll see. Talon, they've been really liking this Marcy Visage. Of course, we've had multiple streams going on. You've had the opportunity to cast them a couple times as well. I cast them on day 1. Then there was a lot of Marcy Visage opener, and they also were really liking the Doom for Savage. He played it in 2 games, and they also flexed it in another game to give it over to Q.
Yeah, they've been really leaning into that, but you always see in the first phase as well, a lot of teams tend to ban out, say, these KP heroes. So you can see as well here, Brewmaster already taken out, Dawnbreaker gone. Talon has been enjoying flexing the Marcy. That tends to go for Q. That option for the Visage you mentioned, still open for KP if they want it. And it still kind of fits in. DP, Tiny don't necessarily wreck a Visage too hard. And as you mentioned, Ares there does come out there. So you do have your offlane and probably your Q hero here as well. So the offlane duo is all set up for Polaris. There's some flex on hand here, Ares. Tiny DP. You could still run one of them as a support. You could run both of them as cores as well. We have seen Force play a lot of that Death Prophet offlane. And there have been a few games where that Death Prophet offlane for Force has gone off a very slow start. So I'm keen to see if Polaris can kind of fix that up here. Mind you, they've also been running this DP plus Tiny duo on the offlane. So it looks like we might potentially just have our offlane duos for both sides here.
If they do want to try and flex it as well, it's something they have done in the past. I mean, you got to remember, this is Mr. Mac, Mr. Lelouch on the Death Prophet. My oh my, he is one of the best Death Prophet players. I mean, you put him up with the likes of Moon as well. I think Moon is an incredible Death Prophet player, and always, if there's an opportunity for Lelouch to pick it, and if he is playing it, it's something that the enemy team is fearing.
Yeah, you've certainly got to watch out. I just feel like in the recent games for Lelouch, he's been popping off way more on his more flashy heroes. We saw him have an amazing Void Spirit game last time around, and I think this matchup up against Mikado is going to be really interesting to see, because Death Prophet is, it's kind of like the DK where you've got great wave clear, you've got great sustain, you're likely not to die, you're also, for the most part, not likely to find a kill. And with a player like Lelouch, he can, maximize that Death Prophet well, but I feel like, you want him in something flashy. You want him to make the plays for the team. And Force, again, he's been leaning into that DP for the past few games. Still have the rest of Man's Puck being taken out into the Winter Wyvern for Polaris. So should be our POS 5 coming out here for AU. A solid hero to have. It's been picking up in popularity. We've seen a lot of great Winter Wyvern games throughout the closed qualifiers here, Ares. You do have good ways of blocking off some of the physical output of Talon. The Visage does have a lot of physical to pump out with the Familiars, Marcy as well. So you've got at least one source of pretty good save here on Polaris' end.
And it also just helps out with a lot of their team fight too. You take a look and you compare the two teams. Talon with a Marcy Visage, these heroes aren't the greatest at being able to take these team fights, the 5-on-5s, but you look at Polaris, Exo, the Threat of the Curse, they group up as well. So there's a bit of an advantage there in regards to Polaris with how they can team fight.
Yeah, they've got a great way of using those familiars against Talon with a good Winter's Curse here. If Talon, if KP maybe micromanages to his familiars a little bit off, and it does allow them to play with his tempo. Like again, I'm expecting it to be a tiny Winter Wyvern support over here, Aries. We've seen Xavius just enjoy his tiny in the past few days. Tends to hit that blink timing fairly well. They've got the push coming out with the Death Prophet. They've got some sustain coming through with Winter Wyvern. Talon go into the Snapfire, so that should be hide in the pause 5. And you also have your support being revealed by Talon. Marcy Snap, very comfy for Talon, along with that Visage. They don't quite have the best tools to, kind of tie in a big setup for the Kisses. You don't have the best way of just grouping them up, getting all that damage on multiple heroes. But you're also fairly well protected in the Snapfire here. There's not too much backline jump from Polaris just yet.
Yeah, and I think it gives you... Like, the Snapfire, I think, is an incredibly valuable hero. Just like a pretty decent laner, can help make plays, has a big team fight ultimate, minus armor you can never go wrong with, so I like this at the moment. Talon, they've got pretty decent setups, and you were mentioning as well, Makoto, the flashy heroes that he likes to play, very similar with Lelouch, but it's going to be the Ember Spirit picked up, so Lelouch will have the opportunity to see the enemy's position too.
5 seconds
Yeah,
remaining.
he's going to get an advantage in picking first here. A few of his heroes still stand. We have, again, he's been very prolific with his Leshrac as well. I think he tends to enjoy picking it into the Ember. That could pile on for Polaris to have this insane push potential with the DP offlane. Could be one route to go. You could still flex the Tiny here. I don't reckon Tiny versus Ember is that amazing for Tiny. It's not bad either, don't get me wrong. You can still farm up fairly well. But it does feel like the Emperor is going to run you down by the time he hits 6 if he gets the angles right with his supports. So I'm keen to see what the mindset here is for Polaris. What's the game plan? What do you want that playmaker down mid here? Do you just want to double down on that push with the Death Prophet and say a Leshrac combo? You do have some sneaky options as well. Batrider could be one way of controlling out the Ember in lane. Lelouch has played a lot of Batrider mids, maybe not recently, but it is under his belt there.
Yeah, would be nice for the damage over time against the Visage as well. I'm even looking at a potential for like a Dragon Knight. I know, again, you mentioned though Lelouch likes his flashy heroes, but I think the one good thing and the important thing about Lelouch is that he can still fall back and play those heroes that aren't really the tempo controlling. And DK has an incredible matchup versus the Ember in the lane. You get that instant stun to be able to control him. Can help with the push, but this is actually a route I wasn't expecting them to go down. I thought it was more than likely it would have been their mid picked up just so they could, because you already see the Ember, but maybe their thought process is we're really looking to continue to hold the flex with the Tiny and the Death Prophet into the last phase, so because it's going to make it difficult now for Talon to be able to predict where these lanes are going.
Remaining.
Yeah, I mean, it's a solid lane to have with Jug, Winter Wyvern. Juggernaut's not going to be completely run down by the Visage, although early levels of the spin are fairly long cooldown, so you still have some openings for KP to play with a Grave Chill and Soul Assumption to get some damage off. But the sustain from Polaris is looking good. Cold Embrace plus the Healing Ward is pretty good. You've got the Death Prophet behind that as well with the Spirit Siphons, so you do have some good frontline here for Polaris. I like that they are flexing here, Aries. It's as you said, they can kind of suss out what the Savage here is, then they can decide if you feel better tossing DP versus Ember lane, for example, which is still stable, and have something else to shut down Savage on the off lane, get some aggression out in force. You have a lot of ways to respond, and we've seen it when you flex up till this late. The other team tends to have to ban a weird mix of heroes. We've seen support plus core bans in this last set of bans before with a flex, and Talon's going to have to think very smartly about what they want to secure here.
I'm trying to see if there's a 23 Savage staple that could get picked up. I think there could be the Threat of the Morphling. I know the carry matchup is very nice versus the Juggernaut, but how do you feel like this hero plays overall against the rest of Polaris?
The Morphling could be good. You do have a natural Spirit Vessel carrier on the DP. but your lockdown from Polaris isn't particularly amazing. Like it on that same point, it could be a little bit hard to lock in Mikado here on the Ember as well. So Morphling can double down on that mobility, on that escapability here for the side of Talon. Just slip on by. You've got some decent heroes to turn into. You can turn into Jug, spin around, turn back to Morphling. It sounds decent enough. Polaris, though, does allow it through. Morphling overall is in a pretty bad state, although Savage still likes the hero, but they opt to ban the Luna and Razor instead. What did they go for? Well, you called it out, Ares. Morphling does come through here, and despite the hero, again, not being the best right now, Savage still somehow makes it work, so they get that favorable core matchup up against the Jug. The lack of lockdown of Polaris is mildly concerning. Like, you've got a good silence from the DP. Blink Avalanche is probably your best bet. Winter Wyvern Curse from afar if Talon stay clumped up. But there's nothing instantaneous that you can just easily toss out. Low commitment, right? There's no Shackles, there's no Nightmare, there's no Hex from Shadow Shaman or Lion. So the Ember and the Morphling, as long as they play their cards right, shouldn't be too easy to catch out here.
Honestly, seeing this Viper ban, I was kind of expecting it to be like a melee hero that they were trying to protect in the lane. So as soon as I saw that, I was kind of swaying away from the Morphling. But yeah, I'm surprised they've gone back for it.
Yeah, I think they still had room for maybe something like the Doom that you also mentioned Savage has been enjoying picking up. But again, I suppose the Doom in this matchup doesn't feel great. Do you have enough ways of handling it? The DP in lane feels like it can have a lot of presence out there. They will go with a Beastmaster in the end for Polaris, so they do flex out for Force. Lelouch probably going to be picking up that Death Prophecy you mentioned early on. We will be playing it, so not too flashy, but the Beastmaster does fix a couple of issues here, Ares. It gives them one single piece of hold. That's, it's on a bit of a cooldown, but not the longest, and it's really easy to commit onto the Ember, onto the Morphling. You're going to be able to catch them out, while also doubling down on that push. You've got the Death Prophet with the Exorcism, and now the army that the Beastmaster will summon. You've got a good amount of ways of just taking these early objectives and applying that early pressure onto Talon.
Man, this is a very interesting draft, because I feel like Talon have got very minimal team fight, which I'm a bit concerned about. And I don't think their lanes are going to go the greatest as well. I mean, Visage is not the strongest laner, so it's going to be off the back of kind of maybe Makoto rotating once Visage gets level 6, and then if they can get a kill, maybe KP can put some pressure on the tower. But you've got it is a Beastmaster in a tiny lane, though, like a double melee versus the double range. They should be able to play that lane relatively well on Talon. Honestly, I think Polaris might be in a position where you're going to look to maybe play with some creep shenanigans. So I actually slightly favor Polari just because I feel like it's going to come down to team fighting, and I think they have a bit of an edge there.
Yeah, I think they've got to keep rolling there. I will say, though, the Visage feels like it should have a little bit more presence, like up against all this healing. That does mean there's more HP to burn through and more Soul Assumption charges to easily build up, because the enemy team will keep committing because they feel confident. So early on, that might lead to maybe a little bit more trading back and forth there for KP. Might have some more activity depending on how well Q plays here as well. But I do agree with your points there, Ares. Like, as long as Polaris plays to this tempo, gets their level 6s up, gets that early Dominator out on Force and start running around, forcing these fights into objectives, Talon's lineup, once it starved to farm, it can be pretty hard to bounce back with a Morphling in, trying to farm up with an Ember who's going to want something like BKB Axe in this game down the line. There might not be enough room to farm that up, along with KP. Visage tends to enjoy itemization a lot. He's very open to itemization as well. We've seen a lot of build-ups with the Shard, with the Ags, with damage focus, depending on how the game goes. So shrinking that map quick for Polaris can easily make it awkward for Talon to try to scale.
And do we think that's going to be a concern, though, for Polaris, maybe the scaling on Talon? Because Morphling late game, Ember late game, if they're lacking some control, those heroes can really be a big issue. So do you feel like that's kind of something that Polaris have to keep in the back of their minds?
Somewhat. I think you have really good scaling on the Jug. Beastmaster gets some insane talents, especially in his Roar cooldown towards late game. So you've always got great presence. Of course, the Winter's Curse is always big in these team fights. But your DP kind of tapers off a little bit more. The survivability can be counteracted. And I think that might be the big concern. Down the line towards late game, for the port-to-core matchup, this is the one issue with Jug here, right? Like, you are sort of reliant on Omni Slash. I mean, Blade Fury gets a good mid-game spike, but down the line, when you are facing up against these big hitting force, it can be a lot more durable. Omni Slash is your ace up your sleeve. It gives you invulnerability, it gives you free damage, and its cooldown is always massive. It's always 2 minutes, 10 seconds. So it can make the timing of these engagements a little bit more awkward for the Jug. Even if you itemize for, say, the Ags, it's not the longest there. And there are ways for Talon to kind of work around that. So we'll have to see. I feel like Polaris is best towards the mid game, towards late game. It kind of becomes almost even. Just depends on execution.
I mean, that's what could we be asking for, John? We have a game that comes down to execution. It's not off the back of like a draft outplay. So this is going to put us in a incredible spot here for our game one. Of course, it is our only series of the night. Boom. They've already taken one of those qualifying spots.
Ooh,
this top lane, yeah, Natsumi's under the pump. Q's gonna be... Oh, Q gets the kill, actually. The Marcy had enough right-click damage. I didn't think he'd be able to secure the kill with the Blade Fury, but in the end, Talon find first blood, but it does come at the cost of Marcy's life.
I don't think you mind too much. KP gets some EXP, some much-needed gold for his part on the Visage. Natsumi kind of cut off from the creep wave, and this is something that tends to get a little bit awkward for Jug. That uptime on Blade Fury isn't that great at level 1. Even at level 2, it's not amazing. It only feels decent enough once you max it out. Level 3, maybe a little bit more usable. So there's a lot of openings for Talon to be aggressive, and not too much AU can do. Like, yes, he can spit around, get the Splinter Blast. They are getting good damage onto KP, but he can just TP away.
Nice read as well. As soon as AU was able to pick up that level 2, they got aggressive straight away. Because this is kind of the thing about the Visage. Your level 1 is a huge spike in damage. But once the enemy team starts to get their own levels, then the Visage is going to be under threat. But we should have a bit of a break in action up top. Let's take a look at how the other side lane is shaping up for the moment. Of course, 23 Savage on his ever so comfortable Morphling. Are we expecting him to have a pretty good lane down bottom?
Not the freest lane. You're already seeing a little bit of a struggle in the CS, but not too bad. Kind of keeping up with Natsumi. Still a much better lane for Force to play with. It's not a lane where you're forced to go Axis, although he does go for it at level 2 here with 1 point in the Boris and 1 point in the Axis, but you can apply some decent aggression. Savage gonna have to eat through a lot of tangos, it feels like here, already out of regen on both of the heroes in lane. And you can't really line up for too much aggression for Hyde. The Beastmaster and the Tiny are fairly tanky, so even if you do manage to somehow find a cookie setup, these heroes aren't going to be easy to burst down with this duo. So it's going to be a lot more passive for them. They'll give it a shot onto Xavius, though.
It's a good chunk of damage at the moment with the level 2s from Talon. They're going to bring Xavius down relatively low. No Selv to play with, but he does have plenty of tangos. What's your thoughts on the tree that we've been seeing a little bit more now from the Tiny, going for it at like level 1?
It's a good set of right-clicking trade. You do have decent enough move speed on the Tiny. You're only 5 movement speed lower than Hyde, so you can kind of walk up and harass. It doesn't feel amazing up against the dual ranges. You mentioned earlier on in the draft here, Ares. I mean, you can kind of space yourself out in Talon to mitigate that risk that the Tiny does present here.
Q might be in a bit of trouble. Doesn't have a point in the rebound, so just going to try and do as much damage as he can onto AU before they secure with a kill. The KP's going to be loving life, though. Look at this. Lane completely shoved in. Doesn't have another hero here to soak the experience.
Yeah, just getting the solo levels. This is big for the Visage. I like how KP's built up. No points in Grave Chill, no need to chase. Just all in the damage and a little bit on that durability.
Oh. Alright, it looks like they saw... Oh yeah, Xavius is on his pulling shenanigans, so they were well aware of the Tiny being out of the lane.
Yeah. And Xavius isn't getting this one for free either. Hyde's still on the chase, providing a lot of damage out. And Xavius does have at least 2 armor protection. The Tiny, without that grow, is pretty low on the physical resistance, so gonna be a lot easier to chip away for Hyde. And overall, looking like a very even start for both sides. Q in trouble, though.
And once again, it's going to try and get KP in range for the rebound, but another kill for Natsumi to find, so Looks like he's off to a pretty good start. Last hits are kind of struggling for the Juggernaut.
Not forget this.
At least he's able to kind of supplement that in regards to the kills. And meanwhile, mid lane, though, it's looking pretty even. We got so much action in the side lanes that we haven't really been able to watch out. But this is just a farm fest, honestly, between Lelouch and Mikoto. I say that. Lelouch might get a solo kill. Mikoto playing with some one charges. So almost bring Ember down.
Yeah, very good chase out, very good use of the fortification from Lelouch as well, just to protect that one melee creep he had working that lane. Doesn't quite find a kill, but is still kind of set up, is out of bottle charges, so not going to have as much mana to trade, and Mikoto can always go for the TP back refill.
Bottom lane. Hide? They're going to try and beat onto Savage, but I don't know, man. This guy is... You're not killing him with the stuns on cooldown. Savage is going to get... Okay, I thought he was going to wait for me, man. Savage, he knows the limits of this hero very well.
Yeah, he's just super comfy on it against here. We've seen him play a lot. Up top, though, they catch AU out here.
Not another support dying. What is going on? Q and KP is going to go for a TP out, and they will not have the damage, actually. Nice read from AU.
Bailing out. Bit of a longer cooldown in that level 1 dispose. So it does buy some space out. That's giving a lot of space out for Natsumi to catch up in that CS. You mentioned he was lacking. Doing great now on the jug. Number 2 in terms of net worth here. And for Talon, 2 kills behind, slight net worth lead for Polaris. Considering the pacing of these heroes, it does feel like a lot of that momentum for Talon's going to be riding on Mikoto and maybe KP hitting that familiar spike that you mentioned earlier on there, Aries. So we'll see if that's something they can play with. Lelouch already showing up mid, does have level 6 with Exo. And Xavius is hanging around as well. Maybe could look for an opening, shove in a little bit, start to pressure onto the tier 1, but not going to go all in that yet.
Yeah, do you feel like the call for Polaris is maybe to use this Exo mid, or are you going to consider bringing Lelouch down bottom to try and get the tower? Hold that thought, because top lane. Yeah. Rebound movement speed. KP's going to be able to get out. Man, this guy moves fast with a rebound. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty cute combination, right? Like a Grave Chill plus rebound movement speed. It speeds up the Visage a massive way. Does allow you to run down and avoid that spin combination, even with the slows from the Winter Wyvern. You're starting to find that opening, though. Lelouch has the Exo pop, not really able to chip away at the tier 1. Does force Mikoto onto the sidelines, but he's still feeling fairly healthy, although the full complement of Ghost does damage him bad.
They're going to go for Xavius, though. Look at Hyde. Really cute play with the cookie, but Xavius going to hold them back with the Avalanche. This is a huge victory, though, nonetheless. That is a exorcism that... It honestly completely wasted. That is not enough damage. 160 onto the tower? You are not happy about that. Natsumi does get a kill though by the triangle and Omni Slash to secure it. So the Jug's off to an incredible start. 3-1-1.
Yeah, it's been a great ride for Natsumi so far. Somehow Savage is still finding a lot more out from his lane. Not finding as many kills himself, but he's gotten a lot of room down bot with all this movement.
Bedrock, I return.
At least Xavius gets the haste away. High was able to step in with the cookie, hold him back. Meanwhile, top lane with the familiars, AU in a bit of trouble. That's that extra damage. Certainly a little bit with the 1 point in the sidekick. It will come at a cost in Q. So 1-for-1 to trade, expending the life of the supports.
Bit of a back and forth. Does feel pretty good still for Natsumi to find. You're building up in this jug, but the moment he dies, that's a pretty big streak to give away.
Oh, what? This is alright. I completely forgot about this. They've got the sidekick for the familiars. They got the cookie as well. Oh my lord, why not just have multiple things to be able to help out with the familiars across the map?
And they've got pretty good ways of getting some long-range stuns with some cheeky plays with familiars, so going to be down to KP to try and micro. They're at the point, though, where Natsumi can kind of just clear out a few small camps, level 7 up, working towards his Maelstrom, so his farming pace should kick up, but I think considering how much aggression Polaris is getting out, look at his clump up bot, Talon's avoiding pretty well. They're starting to focus their resources up top. Natsumi should be a bit cautious there, but backs off in the nick of time. Looks like a tier 1 for tier 1 trade. Just consider how much Savage is still getting though. Like this Morphling, number 1 net worth, again, had a little bit of back and forth in lane, but not under as much pressure. Not as many kills, but the farm is steady.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
I'd say that's a win though in the books for Talon. Like they tried to rotate down to catch Savage off guard, but the Observer Ward by the hard camp was able to scout out Polari. So the fact that Talon are able to get a tower, and honestly, they're a lineup that you don't have like the Exo to really secure an early objective. You are playing with the Visage, which does make it a lot easier, and if the Morphling can get the right clicks going as well, but that's really nice now to just further enable 23 Savage's game, just opening up the map for him to get some more net worth. Makoto might be able to get a kill. He's out of mana, slides up in a couple of seconds. We'll see if the damage is going to be enough. Makoto's still considering to chase. He's got a mana. Makoto! What's going on? Xavier gives him a well-deserved tip for that.
Oh, you shouldn't have.
Yeah, just gets a little bit too aggressive chasing behind. And doesn't quite have enough damage. Didn't have chains up as well to help control in that initial part of the fight. Does get punished. And another Exo is up. Lelouch can be able to line up for the mid. This should be a lot easier to push into with the rest of Polaris ganging up here.
Radiant structures are fortified.
See if they bring the numbers so to protect this tower on Talon. They do have a TP available on Q if he's going to look to join. Makoto's back alive as well. Even they're going to lay down the mortar. Well, alright, well, Xavier's just gone, so low health is going to be the tiny. Lelouch is in a little bit of trouble as well, but he will have the cold embrace and the extra health coming back shortly.
Radiant's middle tower has been denied.
And get the deny off. Just a little bit of a back and forth, punching Xavier's for staying a little bit too long. But they still get the objective. Polaris starting to open up the map more. This should allow them to invade that bot jungle. Start to build up even further on Force. Great use of his dominated creep to just keep that push going. And this is the moment where Polaris starts to hit that early mid-game stride we were talking about there, Ares, right? Like, the Beastmaster is going to be able to help you push out. The Death Prophet's fairly tanky. You don't have any sort of early earn pickup here from Talon yet to handle that. And you're still kind of waiting for farm on Mikado. Doesn't have his Maelstrom up yet. Has started to lag behind from that one death down mid. All the while, Polaris are still building up a Natsumi. After he abandoned stop, he's also gotten a lot of space bot. Once his Maelstrom's up, the Jug can be quite the presence in taking these fights and just being more efficient and clearing out some camps and creep waves here.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
I think maybe for Polaris as well, it's going to kind of come down to, I think, the Exo cooldown and just the item from Force, because he's not having the great... Well, it's a bit better of a time than KP, I suppose, on the Visage, but really it's that Helm of the Overlord they're looking to hit at a decent time to maybe think about taking this tier 2 tower. I don't think they can pressure it until they get that item. Mid lane, Lelouch should be chilling. They're going to be able to kite the Spirit Siphon. They're really doing a good job to play the edge of the fight. You know, they don't bring Lelouch down too low, but I think this is just good signs of how Talon are being able to recognize the ways to deal with the Death Prophet.
Yeah, they just slowly poke and prod. They're not actually giving Polaris an opening to force these team fights. You mentioned Polaris being better in that 5v5. They haven't been able to find those big moments. They will go for a smoke play now. There is a big target up top in the form of Savage here.
How do you start, though? It feels like it has to be a silence from the higher ground where Savage doesn't expect it. A curse from AU, maybe to start, but he gets the attribute shift. No one's just starting to TP in the area. Waveform.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yep. So, yike. That's no good. They're going to instantly smoke. They got to get something out of this. This is a lot of time expended.
Radiant's
KP, smoke's going to pop. They'll toss him Lelouch. He does have the Snapfire nearby if Hyde's going to be able to step in to get the cookie over the tree line, but Polaris will make sure they get the kill before Hyde is able to provide any assistance, and they'll also get the little familiars as well. So at least Polaris gets something out of this.
Yeah, it's something for their trouble. Not the biggest kill. It's still a good core to pick up. And that should allow them to maybe take a little bit more control. Q! Lane tag but not Sumi. Just gets taken away.
Oh, that's a lot of damage! Alright.
On the edge. But that was, Q just trying to, force an issue. He's 200 gold away from his blink. That could be the big spike for Talon to play with here as well. Mikado, though?
Man.
Oh, they miss?
Dude, this is wild. That slight timing was crazy. They did have a sentry as well, so they didn't know the Death Prophet was setting up. Maybe they just saw Force kind of running up aggressively at the Ember Spirit, so it's like, all right, something's amok.
Yeah, and we've seen that multiple times. Lucius has been trying to play with that silence timing on the Sleight of Fist. Mikado's been basically able to dodge out every single one. A bit of a clump up top, trying to get more objectives, but Talon this time going for the smoke play.
Extra to play with, and there's the blink. Q's not going to be with them at the moment, and the TP is also on cooldown, but it looks like they're going to be able to deter Polaris from continuing the siege.
They kind of walked through the path of the Hawk. They smoked up in the top part of the triangle, but with that clump up, Polaris probably knew something was up, using that Beastmaster vision quite nicely, and they're the ones to back off. Talon, it does feel a little bit early to kind of force out a movement with Savage in that smoke. He is just going to go back to farming, build into his Manta, into the Scotty, try to hit those timings as the Morphling. For Polaris, I mean, they're getting pretty big. You know, Natsumi's number one. With that Maelstrom, he's able to keep up and kind of eclipse Savage's farm, trade back to back. Going for the Yasha next. We're seeing a very, very early Lotus Orb next for Lelouch. No BKB necessary, just a Yule's Lotus to dispel. And could cause some issues in holding down and dealing with that regen on the Death Prophet. So it does still feel like Polaris has the upper hand when it comes down to engagements. Neither side has been able to find those big engagements, though. And I think overall, as long as Talon don't bleed out in the next, say, 10 minutes, they still have scaling. Although Q?
Almost. Xavier's trying to get whatever little farm he can find across the map. Really struggling to complete that Blink Dagger. See, just Talon really sweeping across, making sure their cores are continuing to get the farm. KP, it's actually going to go a different build. I think majority of the games I've seen, it was the Wraith Pact. He's actually not going to complete it this time. He's going for the Scepter next. So, do you feel like, surely it's just for the Wyvern, they feel like this is a support that is a must-kill to start the fight?
Yeah, it allows them to scout out for the Wyvern really well. I like the damage output it provides as well. KP can go for the appropriate Talon build-up. He's already got the +8 Visage and Familiar's attack damage, plus the Ag's attack buff when you get out of it, and down the line, the +1.5 minus armor on the Visage and Familiars. It's a lot. So it makes Savage's job easier, it makes Mikado's job easier as well if you find a flank. And as you mentioned, just spotting the Wyvern from the rear is going to be massive. Still Mikado.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I don't know if it's a deliberate thing. I'm going to make it out like it is from Makoto. He kind of dragged the creeps to the right side because he was worried about if anyone was going to pressure, the Tiny had to come from the left tree line and get that stun. He kind of saw him prior that he wasn't in the right trees, so kind of pathed his way to that side, and maybe that was enough to get some distance away from Xavier. I'm going to say it like it was. Of course, Makoto, he's a big brain player.
He is. I'm surprised that Polaris are making these moves without force. Like, I get that they're waiting for that full Humvee Overlord, but it does feel like they need a roar from a distance to at least lock in, chain stun afterwards, get that burst onto Mikado. Without that Beastmaster, you're probably not finding that Ember.
John, look at how defensive the wards are. Like, Radiant and Die pretty much all their wards are just on the river. They've got 5 wards out of on the map so far. They are making sure that Talon cannot invade, but it's pretty similar with Radiant. They're like, you take a look, it's just everyone's really mimicking what's going on in this game. People feel very content with finding their farm. I mean, this puts us in quite a position for the mid game. We're just building up this steam, building up all the pressure, and then it's going to burst shortly.
Yeah, you're going to see that pressure just let loose at some point once either side feels comfy enough. I think the defensiveness for Polaris, it's not too bad because they've got the Hawks flying about as well that can give them much more offensive vision to use. It's just that they haven't been able to build off that offense. And they've been rotating without force. It just feels like you really need that roar to catch out either the Morphling or the Ember. Force has to be around. Dominator's almost done. Maybe that's the moment where they start to group up a lot more with the Beastmaster. Get a kill. Go for an objective afterwards with their insane push. And just kind of slow down the map. Because right now, despite the strong showing from Polaris, 2K lead's not the biggest in the world. Smoke out from Talon was spotted out a little bit on the edge of the Hawk. that should allow perhaps Polaris to back off, but Natsumi still hang around the tree line here.
Don't do it. Play through TPR maybe? Alright. I guess that is kind of the one nice thing here for the Juggernaut this game, is that they do not have an answer to a spin TP out, and well, now Polaris, they're going to go for their own smoke. Is this just a Roche to force a fight, or do they feel like they need a pick-off? Nice scan. Beautiful scan. Talon, they're able to read this, that they're looking to invade, but they got to make their way over to the pit, because Roche just fallen pretty fast.
Yeah, doesn't feel like a great fight for Talon to take. You mentioned it earlier, but again, they lack team fight in Talon's end. They could try to get kisses, but there's no real setup for it. Talon's lineup does feel like it's geared more for maybe some counter engagement and pickoffs here. So free Aegis coming out for Polaris. Great read from them after Talon blow that smoke down. But just holding that game steady. They did have the blow the exorcism, but they're not as reliant on it. At least not with the Helm of the Overlord fully up in the forest. They've got a little bit more presence with their creep army here.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
I like that point though, just because Talon, I think giving up Roche is a very difficult thing. Maybe first Roche is easier though, because you don't have that extra Ag Shard as well, which could be, I mean, it's plus 1400 gold, and it can be an incredible ability to help out. You're actually going to look to take the fight. Exo being on cooldown for Polaris, they're putting a lot of their attention to Xavier's fort at the moment. Wanna Kiss is not going to do the trick, so Xavier's is able to reposition. Talon, they do kind of force them away from the tower though, so they will be able to secure a pretty big objective, but AU is able to fly over the cliff, finds the Winter's Curse. The cookie will not be enough to reposition. Xavius, he's trying to get the +1. The toss is there if he can close the distance onto Hyde, but he will not be able to make it fast enough. So in the end, Polaris, they lose their tier 1 tower mid, but they do get at least some way to rectify that with the kill onto KP.
Man, they're finding a lot every single time they find his Visage. The KP is losing his familiars plus his hero, so the bounty plus 200 gold every single time. Massive wins coming out for Polaris, holding steady with the lead 2k up. Savage just managed to dodge away right before Xavius comes into check. And he does have at least the 2 ultimate orbs up, so he's got a lot more HP to play with, a lot more agi to morph into strength here, and still have a little bit of throughput. But for Talon, this is the moment where it feels like they're going to have to really take a step back. They've not been able to find fights. Your Visage isn't quite online with the Ags build up, and even then, it does feel like you're going to need a lot more on top of that. You're going to need some talent spikes here as well for KP. And Polaris just has so many more angles to take. We see the Curse coming out from AU. It's been effective multiple times. We haven't even seen the Roar yet from Forest. Just not necessary. They just find that one pick off, and Talon's forced to go back farming.
And what do you think the call is going to be for Talon here? Do they mount a defense bottom, or do you look to maybe shove out top and potentially trade the tower, at least get a lot of damage and control the top side of the map?
Bottom tower is under attack.
I think you look to trade. You do not want to deal with the Aegis on Natsumi. The Juggernaut just way too durable. Again, nothing to deal with the spin at this moment. The Omni Slash is still a constant threat as well. And Talon just has no play as of the moment. Maybe once they have this BKB and Makoto, you feel a lot more confident in at least having the Ember take a much more forward position, try to disrupt these fights a lot more. But before that, and Polaris just has all the tools. They have so many ways of catching one hero out, forcing a bad position out of Talon. They've got the shove in, they've got the push potential, exorcisms back up. You could just line up for mid and take another tier 2.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Just forcing the issue here is Polaris, recognizing Talon. They are not in a position where they're going to be able to contest these fights. They've still got a minute 40 to work with on the Aegis. What's the call going to be? High ground, that is a really difficult objective to be able to take. And yeah, it looks like they're just going to back off, maybe try and get a kill up top. As soon as they see the TP's out, though, Talon instantly reacting and calling the retreat.
Back off in the nick of time. And that does prevent any further leeways here for Polaris, and the high ground threat is still not fully realized, although again they have the Exo. Talon will go for a smoke, but so will Polaris here.
They're going to see at least around about where the Death Prophet is. Beautiful read from either side. How can they enter the fight? Lelouch is a big kill if they can find it. Lotus Orb with the burst. Pretty heavy at the moment, half health to play with. They're going to make sure they don't group up. AU's in with the Winter's Curse, but Lelouch is still in trouble for the moment. Able to reposition into the river. They've kept the Death Prophet alive, and now they're going to turn their objective over to Savage, but the Morphling able to waveform down to the south. Savage got to consider about jumping back into the middle. He's got the Winter Wyvern Replicate to play with, so right-clicking from afar secures the kill into the support, but look at Polaris swarming into Talon's territory. They want to hit back, they want another kill, but Xavius will not be able to catch up. KP flies back over to the high ground, so Talon will escape, and that's a win in its own right. I mean, you force out some ultimates, they don't get a successful team fight towards the later stages of the ages, and yeah, Talon, they don't really lose too much there, so I'd say that's a bit of a victory.
You're seeing just how durable Savage is. He comps most of that Omni Slash, he cops the Roar, still manages to get the attribute shift right in the nick of time, and with that, he's just safe. You don't quite have the damage output yet from Polaris to kind of deal with him, but you also don't have the damage on Talon to deal with Lelouch. They drag him down to less than half. Beyond that, you've got the healing from AU, you've got so much sustain coming through on the Death Prophet by virtue of the hero that you don't really have too many angles to take. The BKB from Mikado is big though, that does allow him to dance around, but it does feel like we're going to need that Ember Ags here before anything else can happen, at least for Talon. For Polaris, you kind of need to wait for those cooldowns to be back off. The Aegis is already gone to Natsumi, so as mentioned, it's a little bit riskier to look for the high ground objectives. Tier 2s are still fairly open. You can start stripping that map away, but the response is there from Talon at least.
Just wonder how different that fight could have looked if you had the level 2 and the Mortimer Kisses. At the moment, Hyde is 11 and kind of 2/3. Maybe with that extra little bit of damage from the ultimate, could have been enough to get the kill on the Death Prophet, because I think without that, and without the Scepter on Makoto, like you mentioned, that just burst potential to get rid of Lelouch is not really going to be there. And if you don't get the Winter Wyvern as well, then good luck killing like a core component on Polaris, because AU's got Blink now, so it's going to be even easier for him to position to get the save or even to get a big curse, and there you go.
Oh boy.
Speaking about the curse, look at KP. Oh, not the familiars, back onto himself.
Yeah, they rip right through. And 200 gold as well from the familiars, going away of Savius. Every single time they find that Visage kill, it's pretty big. It starts to add up. Polaris finding the right target at the right time. Sure, it's not the Morphling, but it does feel like you still get a lot more for your trouble there than you normally would. And Talon, that timing for KP into the Ag is going to be stalled out a bit. 500 gold away. That could be the spike necessary to deal with that Winter Wyvern as we've talked about. But Talon not going to be able to get as much done as... Yeah, all the tools are still there for Polaris. And they're down to Curse. They still have Roar, which we again haven't seen too much of from Force. We saw it the one time on Savage. Still kind of clumping around, but someone's going to need to respond down mid, and Mikado will get that done for the team. Could be no. Manages to kill off the Hawk.
Double damage.
Okay. Top lane, Savage. Trying to set up on Lelouch, but he's got pretty good positioning so far. They will not be able to keep up, although Savage's waveform's still on cooldown. Xavier's not playing with a blink. Gonna be reliant on the Force staff. Does he go for a stray avalanche? Not gonna be able to catch up. Okay. So meanwhile, Makoto does go down. I was keeping tabs on top, just seeing if they were gonna get the kill. That was what, the Raw plus Jug? Okay.
It was... He killed off the Hawk while it was diving, which was pretty neat, but yeah, the Roar came out, didn't expect a Beastmaster round, just gets run down. Great punishment onto Mikado, stalling out his own Ag's timing as well. And Talon, I mean, you have all the form in the world on Savage, but a Morphling just can't make these big plays in this situation. You have to rely on the Ember, you have to have some impact on the Visage, not quite there yet. And they might find AU at least.
Get a support out of it. It's gonna... They're at least able to get a trade across the map though on Polaris. T2 tower. So all the outer towers have now been claimed. Talon look to try and smoke up. They do have a pretty good ward at the top outpost if Polaris continue to retreat in this direction. They're actually going to smoke themselves maybe to help with their mobility. Oh, smoke on smoke. Winter Wyvern's down, so they don't have him to be able to protect the Death Prophet. They're in with the combo! And Lelouch is gone. Still, they've got to be cautious. Savage, he gets chain controlled as well. Savage, along with Lelouch, not a factor in the team fights from either side, but it looks like Natsumi, he can clean up. Chasing down KP, they'll get rid of the Visage, and Xavius, He's going to try and catch up for more Talon. 3 heroes playing around with the higher ground. In goes Xavius to break the formation, tossing Hyde back into Natsumi's grasping hands. Look at him go. He's posturing like, come on, Makoto, get out of the way. This is my territory now.
Yeah, Polaris just... They drop one, but they managed to find the bigger kill. Savage this time around not able to get that attribute shift in a timely manner and is punished for it. And we are starting to see that mid-game strength that we talked about. Jug's fully online, has a Scotty, although...
Can he stay alive for long enough? The rest of the team's starting to connect, but it's a question of the control now. It might be enough. Oh my! Natsumi really starting to get the damage going. 8-1 and 4. And all they need is a couple of stuns, forced with the chain control with the dive bomb, and that was plenty to kill off Makoto.
And that opens up the high ground. Morphling respawning a few. They wouldn't want to buy back in Mikado here. The push coming out from the Jug, the sustain from that healing ward, just more than enough to get the job done. And there's no answer here from Talon, just down to the fact their supports aren't big team fighters. They've got great pick-off. They've got that blink dispose on Q, but it's not enough to hold multiple heroes down. And whenever Polaris just clump up on them, it's just way more chain stuns coming out from the Dire side here.
Cool. It's going to be to go back up the high ground. They've got some barracks. But they're not going to be durable for long. KP's trying to scout out with the familiars to see the positioning from the supports. The Polaris, they'll get the melee barracks and now looking to back off. Maybe control the triangle or consider Roshan.
Got a big opening just with the melee racks down. Talon, game gets harder and harder for them as they still lack the itemization. Ags on KP is nice, but you still need Mikado's Ags to really feel comfy, and he's still 2,000 gold away from that. Just been stalled out since picking up that BKB, and just been picked off a couple of times too many. Polari still holding on to the triangle area, but the smoke's out from Talon here.
It's going to have to be a long wraparound into Dire's jungle, get the ward on the cliff, maybe look to play like that, because they have full control of the triangle on Polaris, so there's no way Talon can break this. And they also scout out Roche's up as well, so they do have confirmation. Nice read. They know exactly where they are. Look at the lines drawn on the map.
My waters rise.
Get the general idea that no one's there de-shoving the waves. So Talon snuck out somewhere and not going to be able to find anything for their own trouble. And just going to go back to Equilibrium. They find a free range Drax as well, so the mid's fully gone thanks to the micro coming in from Force. And Talon, I mean, it feels like their backs are against the wall here. They just need more items. They need more time. They need Mikado to actually just hit the Ags and dance around him, try to dodge out all these stuns as he has before, but it's just not coming through. And the impact of KP's just been minimal. Sure, he's got the Ags, he's been scouting, but we haven't seen him burst down the backline as much. You might be able to spot this Roche, though.
What's the call? Roche is falling fast. We're gonna need a way to be able to start the fight. Xavius tries to blink in, scouting some of the heroes out. They're very split for the moment. Look at the curse. Not a lot of damage, but it's really just space. That's the main thing. Savage trying to play around with the Winter Wyvern replicate. Meanwhile, KP's going down in Talent. They're just looking to retreat. They cannot stick around to take this fight. They'll lose KP. Q's going to be killed off as well. So Polaris, with this second Roche, they're in the driver's seat to be able to close out this game now.
Got a big opening to just look for that opening onto mid. Maybe go for a secondary set of racks first before going for those tier 4s. Natsumi's had a great time from the laning phase. Built up. He has the Basher on the Jug, so the spin is going to be big now and keeping something like Savage down, getting the chain stuns off in the middle of these fights. And again, for Talon, we just haven't seen this Visage do too much from KP this game around, even with the Ags. His scouting's there, but he's just been a primary curse target. If not, well, even with the information, Talon doesn't have the best jump. Like, they could try for a Dispose play that's going to kill off Q 100%. And just without Mikado's Ags, you don't have any way of just dancing around here. It's almost unplayable. 8-19, 12k lead. Polaris looking like they've got a really good opening to actually force this game one away from Talon. And Talon sort of crumbling. They go back to that comfort opening with Marcy and Visage, and it doesn't feel like we're getting impact from those two heroes at all just yet.
And I don't think we are going to get the impact out of the Visage as well. I think you're at this stage of the game where he's man, Tiny's almost got more net worth than the Visage. This is a position for Tiny that, I mean, Davies has had a very good game. Props to him, but it's just Tiny can struggle to kind of really find that farm unless you're getting pickoff after pickoff. So, I don't know. I don't feel like we're going to get that impact from the Visage. You're mentioning Mikoto Ags has to go huge. I think Savage as well. Like, this is the Savage Morphling, keep in mind. So, he can pull something out of the hat, but it's going to be crazy here for Talon. That's a 2% probability here. 34 minutes in, so it's not looking good with this second Roche.
Yeah, man. Yags is up for Mikoto. So we'll have to see if he can play to his full potential. Polaris definitely not going to make that easy. Their BKB piercing spells are starting to show its muscle here. And all Talon can do at the moment is just kind of split push with KP. He's at least shoving in top. That will leave the bottom as the angle here for Polaris, but they don't even have a creep wave there either with Savage cutting through. Only the mid kind of give them that access through the back door. Still enough time to get a lot of damage off of Natsumi though.
Wrap around. That's the call. Can't take the fight head on. Not into Natsumi. Winter Wyvern of the Death Prophet, you gotta get rid of them. But you've lost the ward now. And look at this, the read, they know exactly where Talon are playing. They're gonna lose another ward, so how do you take the fights without information? Snapfire's in trouble. Meanwhile, Natsumi off to the left side. A first hit bash. Morphling will be okay, but I cannot say the same about Hyde, and that's the gem dropped as well. Xavius. Oh, the toss on the bird. What?
Radiant structures.
Mikoto? Can they chain control him after back?
Oh,
what's
boy.
going on? Natsumi with these bashes is getting so goddamn lucky. It'll force out a BKB, a buyback as well. Savage is going to try and charge in, but the raw now with the Omni Slash, the damage might be enough. Savage is gone. No buyback on the Morphling. The cheese to drop the Polaris. Alrighty, what a game one performance. Now we're going to take this 36 minutes in. What a beautiful game from Dyer.
Yeah, they play spectacularly well in Polaris, and again, this team has looked revitalized since taking Force back in, having AU come in as their pause 5, having the coach in that playing position, has solidified Polaris. They had a rough DPC run, but this close qualifier has been looking amazing. They beat down on T1, they're beating down on Talon, 8-22, didn't even look close for Talon, and as long as they keep that momentum, they've got a great shot towards Ginting. Now for Talon, they go back to that comfort you called, the KP Visage comes out. It just doesn't do enough. It lanes against the Jug. Jug had enough play there. They were finding some kills on AU, but that fast scaling from Visage didn't quite come out. And Mikado, he tries to get aggressive. He tries to buy that space for the team. Gets caught out a couple of times, and it's all the opening Polaris needs to get that lead, solidify their position, and just run right through Talon.
Man, puts us in quite the position now as well, because I feel like a lot of people were looking at Polaris as the underdogs in this series, maybe expecting Talon to kind of have an easy running here, but that's not going to be the case. Polaris showing, like you said, with this new roster, they are looking incredibly strong, and I really wonder now for Talon what the call is going to be, because a lot of their games so far in the qualifiers has been off the back of this Marcy Visage opener. And maybe that's going to be... I don't think you can go back for this in that second game. And honestly, maybe we could see some emphasis come on to the Death Prophet. We saw one of their games... I can't remember who it was against, in fact. Might have been against in their series versus TNC, where they went the Monkey King DP opener. And we saw kind of the block pick come out as well from Polaris in this game. So we could have some contention with that hero, because it is something they're still favoring, but probably going to put the Visage kind of in the back pocket, use that for another time, because at the moment KP didn't have the impact that they were requiring out of him in this game for Talon. So for those lads, they're going to drop game one. Polaris, they are now one game away of taking that second slot to move over to Genting, which is going to be such an incredible tournament if they're able to make it, and well, for Talent as well, of course. But that's just game one. We've got a lot more in store. We're going to find out what happens shortly after the break.
We bout to make it a movie. I make a hit I can't miss. Damn, the charts might sue me. The way I be stacking my chips, stack it up. Probably the bank gon' sue me. Watch your man go dumb, go stupid, cause your mans can't fool
On
me.
my contra shit commando, pulling up a clips extendo. That's no game Nintendo. I don't ever run out of ammo. I'm gon' need me.
Every job I do, somebody dies. I'm not that guy anymore.
Any potential conflict is an opportunity for growth. You sure you want to talk this out?
Not particularly.
I'm working on it.
Bullet Train, coming soon, exclusively in cinemas.
If you're the best, then prove it. Got no words, be quiet, stay moving. I got a bag, won't lose it.
Don't you know I'm a bad little mama? I got moves like Madonna. Don't tell me cause I move when I'm gonna. I'm not afraid to lose, I am a prima donna. Don't you see I'm a winner, I'm a queen. I cause no scene if you work with me. Don't stop me cause I fight when I wanna. I'm not afraid to lose, I am a prima donna.
Step out as a motivator. Let them know that the weight's up. That's how we know when we level up. Hey, that's how we know when we level up.
Level up. All we know about is level up.
I was in the field, realized I could make it. Sacrificed all my time towards greatness. Been alone in the dark, isolated. And my dreaming isn't real, what separates me. I never know it's coming my way, yeah. Cold out of stone, stay out of my lane, yeah. Leave me alone, this is my moment. Finally found what lights up my fire. Keep the energy high as they coming to go. I believe in myself and I'm taking it home. I'm stepping it up to another level. Time moving faster than ever before. They don't really know about honesty, but they don't really grow. Honestly, I cannot be stuck constantly. Consciously is a part of me. And I never know what's coming my way. Yeah, cold out of stone. Stay out of my lane. Yeah, leave me alone. This is my moment. Finally found what lights up my fire.
Rising out the ashes, coming from the ether. All I hear is static. Breathe a little deeper. Fallen, broken, a million light years away from home. My eyes opened, and now I've come to claim life. see me shining, calling me a goddess, thunder and the lightning. I'm falling, I'm faster, making my way back, I'm close to home. I'm fighting harder, because I've come to claim my throne. Never letting go, these wings carry me, live this fantasy. Running through the fire, gonna let it burn. I am the Messiah, gonna let it burn. I'm running through the fire, gonna let it burn. I am the Messiah, and I live this fantasy. Running through the fire, gonna let it burn. I am the Messiah, gonna let it burn. Running through the fire, gonna let it burn. I am the Messiah, gonna let it burn.
This what you finna There's no defense, I'll buy it if I want it. I'm going supersonic, come on, beg for it. Alright, okay, running out of luck, too much in my cup, Nishi run it up. Why you always tripping like you top, cause you not my team pop. Shawty, I know, why you always tripping like you top, cause you not my team pop, my team pop. Who really got the block, sipping to rock in a cop car, They say they wanna party with us, 12 asking how much be that poofy, it's a la. My feature price bigger than your bank account. You talk about it, but don't show us that about. These boys only flexing with that allowance. We swimming in the down. I'm only f***ing you if your toes cute. Brown skin.
And we are back for our second game here for the deciding series. We got one team with the potential to join their fellow C teams in Fnatic along with the lads on Boom over in Genting. John, we had an exciting game one. There was a lot of kind of just building up, waiting to find that farm, and then the action broke out. Really, that second Roshan for Polaris was the X factor for them to be able to take that game. But what do we need to look for out of Talon? Because we both kind of felt like it was not a draft issue, it was more kind of an execution, and we kind of said that at the start of the game as well. Like, we really feel like this comes down to execution. So what do we feel like maybe needs to be changed out of Talon here, though?
Radiant team.
I think Mikado was taking a lot of risk going forward in a couple of those engagements. Like, he got roared, he gets caught off, and then the chain sensor there, not that durable on the Ember. They managed to burst him down. So and there was also maybe a little bit of lack of play from the supports. Like, yeah, Q gets the Marcy again, Hyde gets his comfort snap, but there was no team fight to tie into the Snapfire. Marcy can only hold one hero down. Cookie from Snapfire isn't particularly amazing. You know, you want something bigger from the offlane. I think that's where the changes for Talon have to come in. They've got to have more presence on that offlane. We'll see what changes they'll pick up here for KP, as his presence in the Visage wasn't really felt. You know, Savage had a lot of farm. Mikado tried to make some plays, but the Visage didn't do much, even with the Ags up. Scouted around, gets cursed, gets literally stunned up, and it dies. So we'll see what Talon pulls out there. Polaris, though, they play amazing. You know, Natsumi gets a great lane. There's a little bit of back and forth with KP, but he still comes out on top in the farm. He gets his positioning right. They play around that jug really well. There were a couple of missed opportunities for Polaris where they were smoked up without force, but eventually they started to, you know, just make it work and really slow down that game for Talon. maintaining at least a 4K lead for a very long time and just building it up there.
And for Polaris in their series versus TNC, they've played the Marcy in all 3 games, and they were a big fan of actually flexing it, which is, I have to imagine, something they're going to do again. I don't like the Marcy played as a 3, which is the role they played in. They gave it over to Force. He really struggled in those games as well, so I hope that's not going to be the case, but in 2 of those games, they had the Warlock. One of those games, they even did this identical first phase as well, so it's something they're comfortable with, but I'm just not a huge fan of the Marcy 3.
Dire team back.
Yeah, it's just not... It doesn't feel like it gets anything more than you'd get in the Sport Marcy anyway, and you might even miss out on, say, the Aether Lens sort of play, going for maybe the BKB Blink kind of build, which allows you to maintain more frontline, but less emphasis on just that pullback and stun. Remaining. So we'll see what Polaris decides to do. It could still be a really good Savius here to play on the 4 instead. For Talon, the shakeup is already there though, Ares. They go with the Mars for KP, which is something he's very comfy on, and that does provide more team fight for Talon. So there's more play for him to have. He doesn't need as much farm on the Mars in comparison with the Visage, where we had to see the Vlads plus Ags build up. Mars probably just needs that Blink phase boot, so should have more ways of setting up for the team, and that is additional team fight for Talon to have, which they severely lacked last time. Like, Polaris had the Roar for single target, they had the Curse, which was always big from AU. He's been performing spectacularly here in the closed qualifiers. So Talon now at least have one tool to play with.
I do think my issue though with the Mars being picked up is that I think it reveals that Tiny is going to be played mid. Because, okay, so I don't think... Tiny Mars is not a lane you want. Mars wants a range support to be able to play with him so you can follow up and also be able to pump damage inside the arena. And if you run Tiny Mars as a side lane, that is incredibly abusable, and it's just... At the moment, lanes are really important. So I think at the moment, Talon, it's either going to be Tiny mid and Mars off lane. There could be an opportunity for them to flex and give the Mars actually to Makoto and still Q play the Tiny. I think that is really less likely. There is an opportunity for that, but I do think naturally, like these heroes, especially the Tiny, there's a lot of flex, but I think now because they followed up with the Mars, it doesn't really have that capability. So I'm a bit... I don't know, like you said, KP plays an incredible Mars, but I wonder if they could have gone for it later on now.
Yeah, it reveals that hand really early, especially since they don't know what their safe lane matchup's going to be like. And the Tiny just doesn't solidify that Mars pick all too well. Just fairly greedy. Q does still, he always finds what he wants in the pause 4. He still finds his blink timings. He still finds his angles to play in. The Tiny's still really damn strong. So you saw Savius play in game 1. Once he had his own blink up, he was just setting up for the team, getting the initial stunts off to enable that chain to come in. But I'm with agreement with you here, Ares. I don't know how much you can expect from the Tiny Mars to really achieve. Keen to see what Talon builds up on top of it. They've got the option for maybe going a bit weird, say a Snapfire pickup, putting Q on the Snapfire, putting Hide on the Tiny, or as you mentioned, still keeping maybe a Tiny pause 1 here and having something else entirely. Could be one way to go. You see Polaris though respect banning the Void that Savage has been enjoying. They go into the Keeper of the Light. So this should be our Lelouch hero mid. And there is still some flex. We have seen Savius play that in 4, which could signal that offlane Marcy you mentioned.
10 seconds remaining.
Oh man, I don't know. This Coddle hero is so dumb, but gives him a lot of burst, which I think is important. Like, Warlock is a hero that wants he wants his teammates to be able to provide the damage. He doesn't really have it as much in himself, but I really like this response though from Talon. It is going to reveal that there's no crazy flex coming through from the Tiny and the Mars, so the Void Spirit already picked up from Makoto, a comfort hero, but importantly, it's a hero that gets on the Coddle.
Jumps the backline really well. Really reliant on the Ags to have that full utility coming through with the AoE silence. I'm keen to see what the timing's going to be like there. Talon, pick the inch up as well. That should be Q's hero. So maybe now they just put Hide on something weird like the pause. 5 Tiny, get a ranged core for Savage so that lane isn't too awkward. But Enchantress Mars sounds a lot more playable there, Ares, right? Like you can at least trade blows there. with the Ench. We've seen Q on the Enchantress kind of carry games on his
5
back
seconds
previously as well.
remaining.
And you don't really have anything that instantly bursts down the enchanted creep. You're not dealing with the Doom. You're not dealing with a Mirana. So you still get a lot of play there with the enchant on the Enchantress in lane at least.
I feel like there could be a bit of control issues here for Polaris, and I'm trying to see what they can kind of do to supplement that issue. It's a question like, do you try and pick your position 1 here to hide the flex of the coddle, or do you just reveal it now and go for a hero that can kind of have some stuns to keep them inside, especially to help the coddle be able to blast heroes down and also control the void?
Yeah, they're going to need some steady hold from the mid. They've still got a lot of Spirit Brothers left. The Ember's there, so at least you might have that Ember Coddle combination along with the chains to at least hold down the Void Spirit if you get a good angle in, and maybe follow through with a Dispose and even a Golem if necessary to just hold down the Void Spirit. That could be one really good response from Polaris. Like, you already have the Coddle on hand, you might as well play with that Chakra on a big hero like the Ember. And Lelouch does play a mean Ember, so it could line up. And I have to point out that he still has this option of something like the Leshrac as well. Chakra on Leshrac's not too shabby, and the man is always good for him to kind of play around his specialty of his. They will go with a CK first, so more in line with what you were saying there, Aries. They've got the Flex on hand, still standing. The Coddle can still go mid, not revealing too much. They can sort of kind of figure out what they want to do now. And the Chaos Knight up against the Mars, it does feel like a pretty decent lane for CK. Like, sure, it's a melee on melee with the Mars. It's not the worst thing for the Mars, but at the same time, the CK is beefy enough that he can tank through those hits. And by the time he hits level 4, you've got the threat of coming back on top of them. You've got the Warlock to heal you up. You've got the Warlock to also be offensive with a Shadow Word if need be. So the Chaos Knight has a lot of play in that lane.
And you see they're instantly protecting it with the Medusa. That's kind of the number one staple that's always banned out when you are versing the CK, but it gives them that stun, hides. I think it also deals with Enchantress relatively well with the Phantasm. Like, all those illusions, just all you need is kind of one hit, you're going to be able to blow him up. And that's a difficult lane, honestly. Look at the sustain. Shadow Word into the lifesteal, and Mars is a hero that thrives off kind of chip damage, and also you're going to an incredibly strong laner. So I think Tiny Mars, well, you're expecting this to be a Mars Enchantress lane, right?
Yeah, I'm expecting the Mars Enchantress. At the least, some of that sustain does disappear with the enchant as well, so you can kind of just dispel that off. So that could be one way for Talon to kind of play there. But it still does feel like a really good CK lane, and as you mentioned, a great answer in the CK for the Enchantress down the line. She's not going to be buying too much time with the Phantasm illusions on top of her. Wondering what options are left for Talon. They ban out the NP and the Viper. The Deuce banned out already by Polaris, as you mentioned, great way of counteracting that Chaos Knight. There's still something like, say, the Savage Terrorblade, no, banned out by Talon themselves. You'd really want a range here to play with a Tiny. It doesn't feel that great to, again, just have that double melee. Remaining. Although, if you are laning against a Marcy, it might be a little bit more feasible for Savage to go something like that. They've been very fond of the Pause 1 Doom, and that could be one way, just jump on the CK, doom him up, prevent the Phantasm, prevent anything from coming through, just run around. It is fairly greedy, though, so you're going to have to stall out for that Doom, get the Midas, get his Blink BKB, and then get some armor on top of that. It takes quite a while for that to really hit its stride.
I actually think they can if they want to feel like that's the route to go down. Because I think the one thing I look at for a Doom is if the lineup has control. And I think they have plenty of ways to keep heroes inside. But it will be a Bloodseeker route. So, of course, Rupture destroys the Chaos Knight. At least he's going to have some other illusions to be playing with. We'll see what the answer is going to be on Polaris. Of course, we're mentioning a lot of the flex, but overall, what do we feel like Polaris kind of need with this last pick? Is there any flaws that they need to cover?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a little bit of control. I think you'd still want to see a little bit more for Polaris coming out there. Their team fights really tied into the Golem drop on the Warlock. Otherwise, it's all single target, whereas in comparison for Talon, they do have a lot more AoE now. And they go for the Doom themselves, so they pick up that Doom for them. That should be our off lane coming out for Force, although we have seen Xavius play that, so some of that flex is still on hand. And they will go with a Q Tiny, so it's the Mars Tiny lane in the end, and they will keep Hyde on the Ench. And it does look like, again, they're holding on. Force will play the Doom off. All right. And that should be the mid Lelouch Coddle. We just talked about that Doom. Force is going to have a decent enough lane. At least hides there with the Enchantress, so you do have some poking around to do there. It's a double melee for Force and Xavius up against a Bloodseeker and an Ench. So, on paper, at the very least, Hyde should have some presence to at least help zone them out for Savage to farm.
10 seconds remaining.
This is also a treat that we get a Force Doom, of course. Also, another person that changed his name, formerly known as Nico. He was is a incredible Doom player, something that they, on the Execration lineup, they would prioritize very heavily. So, going to be exciting to see how this one's able to shape up. Honestly, with this last pick, I was actually considering if they were going to flex the Coddle, just because I do think he's pretty counted in this game. You got Void Spirit to jump in. Savage is more than likely going to even put the Rupture out on the Coddle. Mars with the Blink. Q with the Blink. There's a lot of gap close, and Coddle does not want to be playing with heroes that can get on top of him, so I wasn't sure if they were going to try and flex it and go for a better hero out of Lelouch, but they feel like the Doom is going to be enough, of course, with his scaling potential to the late game, can really take Makoto out of the equation and potentially another hero if they do get the double Doom. But for me, John, I think really the one strong lane I'm looking at for Talon is going to be this Bloodseeker along with the Enchantress, but I don't know if that's going to be enough though, because Savage is like, the other lane Savage is not going to be playing with the Thirst. We're expecting Mars and Tiny to not have a good time. I think Coddle as well is not going to lose a lot of health. So without that bonus assistance from the Thirst, do you think that could maybe hinder the safe lane on Talon?
Definitely, and you have to also be very wary of the camps now. There's some good creeps to devour. You've seen the Lightning creep be big, the Purge creep be big, and just allows constant harassment onto that Bloodseeker safe lane. So you also lose out in playing with the enchant there, because, it's Doom into Enchantress. You can just remove that enchant play. Hyde might have to opt for the Impetus and the Nature's Attendance instead, and that could give a little bit more leeway for players to play as well. So we'll see. They've got a lot of choices. They've got a lot of ways to make all these lanes winning in Polaris' end. It does still feel like a bit of a tougher time for Talon. And we already see Polaris going a bit aggressive with that smoke here.
Such an interesting ward from Makoto. What is... Okay. I've really not seen them. I've been watching some replays for the Major and seen some new wards that I've been liking. This one, though, it's very interesting.
It's just spotting out the rotations from Force side into some decent vision for the rune as well. So it's still within range of that for you to fill up your bottle by the 4-6 minute mark especially. And at least protects Mikado a little bit more. And you do have that rotation coming in from Xavius, so you want to watch that Marcy on the flanks. And that should give Mikado enough time to respond at least to a movement in.
Do not be fooled about the no golden bars at the top, lads. Polaris, they do have this game 1 victory. One more game secures their ticket over to Genting. That would be incredible for this team. Of course, Polaris relegated out of Division 1. And a lot of people were counting them out. The fact they've been able to make it all the way through, take game 1, and now honestly have a draft that I think can really put them in a position to take this game as well. I like their draft a lot.
Yeah, it's a really solid draft. We're already being aggressive onto Hyde, forced to go for level 1 Nature's Attendance. David's just recognizing how much he can do on Marcy, trying to trade hits. Hyde's right click isn't the best. They are starting to zone Force out a little bit with a Blightstone on Hyde, though. So you are trading blows, and Hyde's back to full HP with Nature's Attendance. This should be a manageable lane for Hyde, as long as you kind of watch the camps. Like, they won't want to give the Enchantress creeps, but you also don't want to give the Doom any big creeps to play with the abilities. Savis is already blocking that small camp with his body, and Hyde blocks a large camp with his body. So it's just going to be a straightforward lane in trading hits, and if you isolate that factor of having additional abilities on Force, the Doom can be a bit slower in the first few levels.
I just panned to top to see the shenanigans of the creep pulls, and god damn, this Tiny with the level 1 trait just denied 3 creeps in front of the Chaos Knight. That's just... oh my god.
You gotta love that bonus damage on the Tiny, and that is giving Q some solo EXP as well. KP dragging another creep wave away, a bit further back. They're just trying to play this lane a little bit slower, get that EXP build up, maybe hit level 2, level 3. That's where you can start to have a little bit more presence. It is that double melee lane you mentioned, though, for the Mars to have to deal with. So not as much follow through, not as much ways of setting up for the spear.
John, what's going on? Oh, I'm so sorry. Look at the bottom river as well. Oh, what has happened to all the side lanes? What a state we are in.
Yeah, they're just pulling. They're just trying to get these greedier fours, some solo XP, some ways of getting some spikes, and they're just interfering every time. This is a little bit worse for Xavius, though. As Hyde still has control of the wave and is going to be able to trade a little bit more, and Savage can still maintain his farm here.
Lucia's got a couple of creeps too. Oh god. This is honestly, this is something that I think Tundra do best at being able to exploit. They're under the assumption that you can chuck a double melee into any lane, especially now even on Dire, because you have the capability to drag the creeps behind the tower now that they kind of opened up that path. So we see, I think this is going to be, they tried to patch it. They've got to do something a little bit better, because it's still just breaking open lanes. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's leading to a much better equal state for both sides now, as they are just able to farm up. It is hurting Natsumi a lot more. Compare that core to core here. Savage nearly double the CS of our CK, so you're really not getting as much in terms of farm, and the CK isn't necessarily the quickest farmer. You can play with a Phantasm, but the Bloodseeker can work that jungle self-sufficiently much more consistently. So you have to watch how much you're giving away here on Polaris. And even then, the only real lane that Polaris is getting a clear win in is on mid for now. You are getting a lot more out from Lelouch with a Coddle, which is to be expected, but it's not an overwhelming win yet for him. And again, with the wards down from Talon, Xavius doesn't really have some angles to play from the Rune into a gank.
It's really interesting from Makoto. He's actually gone 2 points in the Remnant, which is something you don't see this at all. I wonder if it's just a lower cooldown, because the nice thing about the Remnant is you can kind of chuck it out on the Coddle who's standing still to blast. Is there something else you could maybe see with why he's leveling this up?
And that's pretty much it. He's been using it to trade blows with Lelouch, keeping him with a lower HP pool than he'd like, landing it again. So every single time he does try to blast, it's not completely unpunished. And Mikado can get some damage in, force some pressure onto Lelouch as well, just stop him from overwhelming the Void Spirit and, getting a little bit of play on his own end.
It's interesting. Force is still yet to be playing with a creep. They do have a really nice one in the Seder by the medium camp at the outpost. And Force is going to take a decent amount of damage here, enchant into the blood, right? But it's like the bonus movement speed is going to be enough for the moment. He is quite struggling down bottom. And Savage, he might be able to get the kill, but not going to continue with the chase. Okay.
Doesn't want to tempt fate and get disposed into tower range. Going to provide an opening for Polaris, but the Doom is off to a much slower start. Like, he's barely above Q on the Tiny in terms of CS. And he's already used up his self, so another opportunity for Savage to just run down here.
Has been killed.
Finally, should have our first blood 5 minutes into the game. Force is going to make him work for it, but Savage, of course, he has this vision with the Thirst, and beautifully done. He's able to secure our first blood onto the Bloodseeker and is in a credible position to start off our second game.
Yep, that's something that Talon really need. They're getting off to a strong start here, punishing that dual melee from Polaris' end. They do manage to get the dispose onto Savage under tower, but don't have the follow-through. Force doesn't have anything like the Infernal Blade here to get a little bit more burn and stun under that tower aggro. Savage going to be able to farm up. Every lane looking decent for Talon, in a great contrast to game 1 where Polaris was all over the place. Even Lelouch farming up the jungle is scouted out by Q. So they've got the information on where the Coddle is playing. They've got a good forward ward as well to watch this. They can't quite stop it though. So the timings of Lelouch into travel should still be lined up here.
Dire are scanning.
They are starting to rotate the Enchantress though, because you've secured bottom with how well that lane has gone. So you're going to look to play with Makoto now that he has the level 6, but they're pretty deep. So the rotations coming up to the T2 tower will not be enough to keep Lelouch alive. A beautiful move from Talon, securing multiple lanes. And now they're going to get the toss back out of the T2 tower though. Hyde, oh, the Nature's Attendance level 2. It's going to be enough to give him that health. to keep his life. In the end, Xavius and Hyde just going blow for blow. It's not enough to secure a second kill, but meanwhile, it is a lot of damage onto the tower.
No siege creep up here, but just enough from the right clicks and the flanking away. Do you have the Lelouch back up, so a little bit more damage can come out from in and Hyde?
Jesus. That's the damage.
I see your liver and light.
He's like, alright, I'll take some of the creeps that are pretty low health back in the jungle. I really like that rotation out, though, from Talon. Nice read, and with this ward as well, they're going to continue to be able to play pretty aggressive. Hopefully AU can look to get back some control of their own jungle. They are able to scout out, though, AU dropping that ward, so this is going to be difficult now for Lelouch to continue farming at a safe rate.
Yep, still managing to get it done, though. Again, no one really walking up to interrupt Lelouch once more. Travel's Gold is up and running. I think the issue for Talon is, I mean, they are able to leave KP alone, but he's also not able to farm up all too well. Well, they'll make their move on to AU.
Kodo and Q nearby. That's a beautiful play from Hyde. A minor thing, but he doesn't hit when he was out of vision. The Warlock got around the tree line, and Hyde, he made sure he continued to run naturally, like the only way he would have been able to hit him was if his hero had vision. So they might not be able to read that there is still a ward placed there. So just minor things, but again, really important because they are continuing to want to invade Lelouch, who's farming up safely.
Yeah, still trying out onto Xavius, but they might find Lelouch instead. Toss back, still not enough damage though. It's gonna take them back here. I mean, everyone's just ganging up mid. It's a six heroes mid, tree on tree. Side lane's just kind of left to farm up. That does feel like it's buying so much space for Natsumi, but Savage is using that space really well as well. Just matching Lelouch's farm. And that is a Kotl with insane wave clear. So you're fairly happy on Talon to get this kind of build up. And even KP should be able to meet a decent blink time here to start to play on that Morris.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
See, Natsumi is a pretty difficult kill. Decent amount of components completed on his way towards the armlet. I wonder if they're going to have enough damage, though, with Arena into Makoto's rotation. Hyde's got no points in the impetus.
Ran into my spear.
So, do you feel like this is kind of the play for them? Hold that thought. Bottom lane, Savage. First doom of the game. Combined with the Mars here, there's going to be easy pickings for Polaris and a much-needed kill as well. With all the pressure they've been able to put on mid, along with bottom, just shutting down Force, but with that kill is at least able to get some injection of gold into the bank.
Dire's top tower is under
It's a
attack.
very big kill for them to find. Savage has been left alone for too long, so they kind of correct some issues from game one where they let that Morphling farm up. They know the Bloodseeker hits a little bit earlier tempo. They need to keep it under. Clump up from Talon up top doesn't quite amount to much. They are still building up here on Talon's side. Mikado working onto his Witchblade for some additional throughput. Sport's still playing tag in that jungle, though.
Giving them some information. Seeing whatever they can find. Who's able to get the invis? Makoto. He's chilling for the moment. Gonna be the Witchblade build for the Void Spear. What are your thoughts on this item on the Void? I've kind of seen it prioritized a little bit more over in Europe, but Southeast Asia, kind of back and forth I've seen so far.
The stats are good. Does allow you to kind of chase down a little bit more, get a little bit more output when you're trying to burst someone down. So it can be nice. Mikado trying to go onto Force.
Last time they used the Rupture, Force was able to TP up, but with Makoto being nearby, he won't have that capability. A toss back, Makoto with a chain control. The Chaos Bolt's going to fly out. Makoto, though, great use of the Dissimulate, able to dodge into the TP out. And this is a lot of reactions down bottom. So it's going to free up top. They've got the Catapult Wave, so KP and Hyde should be able to get a decent amount of damage done to the tower.
And it also allows Savage to just back off from that lane. He does, use up the Rupture, not the longest cooldown, just farming up in the jungle now, almost at that Maelstrom. So still managing to build up. The lead Lelouch has just doesn't feel like it's big enough, KP.
Oh, he missed the spear. Nice sidestepping out. They've gone way too far. They're going to have to look to Delta split. KP into the tree line. They're even going to drop a ward for this. All right, putting a lot of emphasis to try and get the kill onto KP. He'll really make him work for it. There's I reckon there's zero chance KP makes it up. He's going to be pretty crafty with his Quelling Blade jukes through the trees. No way. I said 0%. Surely not. Okay, they just get him. Xavier's the nick of time with the stun. So much space is being created, though. They're trying to hunt down Natsumi by the secret shop. Makoto's going to go in for the combo hide, soon to be able to connect as well. Let's see if the burst is going to be enough to get the kill, and look at tip him KP. No, come on, that is a prime opportunity to give a tip over to Polaris.
They're staying calm and collected on Talon's end. They find a big kill for the sacrifice of KP. Even the mid tower is forced to be denied by Lelouch. So the map is opening up for Talon. Polaris still need to kick into gear. Force is still trying to work on the Midas, and at that point he starts to feel a lot better on that Doom. Lelouch does have the travels to throw around everywhere, and does have the full Spirit Vessel flying through as well. So they've got some ways of eating through some of the regen that Talon will want to bring out. Soften up these targets as well while they take these engagements. And I think the key thing for Polaris next is going to be Natsumi. He needs that armlet up. Once he does have that up, he might feel comfy enough to show up in this fight. He is extra durable. We saw how much he had to commit there from Talon. They needed the chain stuns to land perfectly, and only onto one.
Spirit Vessel's going to be a bit of an issue here for Mr. Hyde. HS10 is going to do nothing once Lelouch able to show up to the fight, so nicely done. Some injection of gold into the Chaos Knight, getting closer to that armlet. In fact, it is completed now. Do you feel like Polaris are going to look to try and take a fight with this item completed, along with the Doom being at the ready?
And they could try to make some plays. I think the one issue for Polaris is they don't have the smoothest way of jumping in right now, outside of Xavier's getting good rebound dispose off. So it's not as mobile, it's not as easy for them to just hammer into a target. It feels like they'll depend on Talon displaying KP.
He's going to be in some trouble. Lelouch TPing in aggressively with Natsumi's position. Is going to be forced to use the arena defensively, but the Solar Bind makes sure that movement speed is not enough to disengage. But Makoto!
What?
Oh, not enough. He's going to tick out of the Spirit Vessel. But still, the damage onto Natsumi might be enough. The reinforcements are showing up, but Q just off the mark to get the combo. Now Natsumi, he's looking to go back in. Pumping the damage onto the tiniest Polaris. They'll get 2 kills up top.
Yeah, they try to make a play on Talon's end. Doesn't pan out. The output is there from Polaris, and with the armlet, Natsumi is just nearly impossible to kill. The burst play has to be on point. The chain stuns have to fly through. We saw it in that kill down bot there, Ares. They needed a perfect remnant into a perfectly timed avalanche toss to get that kill. With this added strength Natsumi has, that burst damage doesn't feel like it's adequate. They're going to need to find a solution for that down the line. The good news for Talon is that Savage is farming with a Maelstrom into his BKB next. So the Bloodseeker's almost at that point where he can show up. You will still have to worry about Force in the Doom. Force almost at his own blink. Midas already done. Farming up like a madman, as you'd expect on that hero. Number 2 in net worth now after a slower laning start. So that investment is going to pay off for Polaris. Once you've got that blink Doom up, not even a BKB can save you on Talon's end.
Yeah, it feels like it's... like Talon are trying to force the issue, but they don't really have... It's not like they have a lineup where they can really just play aggressive and get tower after tower and death ball. Your Q is reliant on this blink. Like you said, Savage is looking to complete the BKB. It's really just maybe Makoto and Hyde if they can get some pickoffs. So until they really get these items, and you can start to see them be a little bit more aggressive. But this is exactly what Polaris want. Just that slow game where Force is able to find his farm. But it might run into Makoto. A double damage rune smoking down to their ward at the bottom side of the map. So a beautiful move from Talon. They'll get the one. They're even looking to try and control the triangle as well. They've got another ward that they're going to pivot over to.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Don't quite see the obs up top, but Kato gives the vision out. Is enough to save AU at least. But they find a big kill in the Doom. KP looking for the flank. Does have the blink flying out now on the Mars. So you've got that initiation on Talon, but again, you're also already have that with Force on the blink himself. Q with a blink might give them more angles here. Just got to see if they can play around this.
They see Natsumi.
Radiant's bottom tower is
cautious. How long does he stick around? Probably just instant TP out in the tree line, and yep, that's going to be the case. So Natsumi will make it out. Now, what's kind of the play from Talon? Multiple heroes down bottom.
Is under attack.
You look to smoke across the map. You do have to get top shoved out to really make a play. Lanes aren't in the greatest position to get aggressive. In fact, it's Polaris that's going to be the team to smoke. Force jumps on forward. There we go. The blink reveal. Q's going to be able to hold back the Doom. KP's inside with the arena as well, but the damage is dealt. They'll get rid of the Void Spirit out of the team fight, but can they turn this back around on Talon? Taking it by their tier 1 tower. Savage is going to show up as well, but without the BKB, he cannot charge into the middle. As Talon, 3 heroes pop just like that, and now Xavier's, he's even got to turn his attention over to Hyatt. The Enchantress with the Untouchable is not enough to hold them back as Polaris find a 4-for-1 and the tier 1 tower.
Man, Force is just doing a lot of work on that. Doom finds the biggest target to Doom up, takes Mikado out of the equation, and that's just your primary Doom target. You don't care about that Bloodseeker running around. You've got the Vessel to deal with him. He does have a BKB on Savage, though.
Should be killing to Xavius. Help me, team. Don't let me die. Not like this. Alright, fine. I'm just a measly support. Not the worst. So that was kind of the timing they were looking for, though, on Talon. You didn't have BKB on Savage, so it was a bit hesitant about running in, but double blink and they don't get a successful team fight, but they might get the kill onto Lelouch. They need another way to hold him in place, and Q just a little bit too late with the Avalanche, so the BKB used to keep the life of the Coddle.
And they're cutting their losses well on Polaris' end. They've got a sizable lead now. 3K running up here with the Doom, getting a lot of farm with Natsumi, kind of keeping pace really well here. His BKB is almost done. Talon, they're trying to build into Mikado's Ags next. It does feel like they're going to need multiple Lincolns here. Savage already working onto one, but Mikado is probably going to need one as well. And you probably want to stack them just on top of the Void Spirit. Have him jump in, have him cop all the spells, and kind of play off the back of that. Beyond that, maybe again, just focusing on Q and KP, find the angles with the blinks, and try to pin someone down. But Polaris, they're getting beefy. They're eating through that regen that Hyde wants to provide with the Spirit Vessel. And as long as they've got Doom off cooldown, it does feel like Polaris is just going to be able to find Mikado and get short work done here.
I can't imagine the late game gets any easier, even with the Lincolns. Like, you've got multiple ways to pop it. You can even just play with the neutral ability as well, just to hold them in place for long enough. Maybe you get a goddamn Fey Grenade if you're lucky, but I think Talon, this is really their biggest timing of the game. Double blinks along with the BKBs. But boy, maybe they were hoping the Void Spirit to be a little bit more farmed. Like, Mikoto's going to take quite some time to get towards this Aghanim, so you don't want to go late here on Talon, and it's a bit of a concern in the position they're in now.
Yeah, they've got to find something to play with. They're clumping up around the triangle, but Polaris aren't daring to cross their own side of that lane.
They're on division.
By their tier 2.
They see exactly where KP and Q are in. Xavier's, that's ambitious blink. Force is nearby, but Arena from KP is not going to be able to hold them back. Now, this is the fight they're looking for on Polaris. They've still got the ward to play with. Able to get the jump in, though, however. What's the call now? What do you do on Polaris? Because Arena's on cooldown. Do you look to maybe take an objective? Can they even Roche?
Dire's bottom tower is under
They can.
attack.
They've got the damage on Natsumi with a Phantasm. He'll just walk in, get that done himself.
Why not?
And yeah, get lucky as well, get the DD, go back in. Talon, it's hard for them to play without the arena, but you could try to snag without the Ags and Mikado. It's a lot harder than it should be. They are clumping around the right side of the map. They're scouting out well with the Mikado illusion. That's enough to force Polaris back a little bit more, and they will smoke up here.
Smoke on smoke.
Radiant are scanning.
Need to scout them out. It's going to be Hyde, the one on the front line. Force is always ready to find the jump. So smoke pops. Force is going to blink away, but Xavier's goes in instead. Targeting down the Tiny. They've got the Rock to be able to counter-initiate, so Q should be the first hero to be killed off. Down to the south, though. Rupture expended, but the Doom as well. So the Bloodseeker should be able to reposition thanks to his ultimate holding back Polaris. Kodo. Cautious, my friend. If they see him, they see him!
Oh, no.
Oh, they're in with the first stun, but where's the second and where's the follow-up? Makoto's actually going to jump in, but the War Stomp holds him in. Makoto's in trouble. He might tick out. They need the fatal bonus damage from someone else, and they'll get it. Polaris bring down Makoto. They can now turn their attention over to KP. Mars is out of the fight, jumping over towards Q as well as Polaris. They have got all the momentum in this second game and in this series. 7,000 net worth lead. Well and truly in the driver's seats, and they are sensing this ticket over to Genting.
Yeah, they've got such a great shot. They get a great team fight there. I mean, the Doom coming after Rupture was a little bit awkward, but for Talon Sport, they didn't have the initiation. Q didn't manage to get the avalanche, gets tossed away, forced to buy back. KP expended the arena much earlier on. Their damage onto Roche is a bit slow, and respawns aren't too long, so Talon's going to be around to at least stop that, and they don't fully go in. They might be able to find some pickoffs if Talon don't play carefully here, though. Still in a very risky spot for Talon. Polaris in a great spot. They've just been scaling well. They've got the Invis up on Force. No Doom, though. So a little bit more to wait until that tool is up and running. But Talon, they need to find a way to make these blinks work. KP trying to jump on to the Kotl, onto the Marcy. It's just not shaping up. We need to see bigger arenas. We need to see that hooked up with Q's initiation. He's been very brave on the Tiny, trying to go up, make these openings happen for Talon, but if the follow-up's not there, if it doesn't connect, it falls apart. Smoke out from Talon here, though.
They do have a really nice deep ward scouting out Force. It's like Polaris are aware of this. Backed up towards their tier 2 tower. Force is going to be playing with a BKB now as well. They're going to smoke themselves, KP. The first target jump. Q is not nearby on the Tiny. So if a teamfight does break out, they won't have the 5-man for it. Smoke's gonna pop. KP. That's the target. That's all their teamfight control. KP. Oh, he's gonna melt. An easy kill for Natsumi. A freebie. And now they can move inside the pit 40 seconds without the offlaner.
Yeah, that's the timing they're looking for on Polaris. No threat of a fight for...
They see Savage! Great BKP reactions, but Force is still going to drop the ultimate regardless. The Radiant, they need to react. Savage, you can't let him go down like this. Rock is out, forced to reposition, but look at the Doom. He's locked onto his target. Same with Xavius. They'll hunt him down, and they'll turn to hide next as well. Azarian dragged back into his death. As Talon, they just cannot get a grasp in this second game.
Yeah, Polaris are just punching their every move. They've been able to avoid all these ganks. They've been able to avoid that power spike with the blinks. Talon have not been able to play with any of these items at all. And, Mikado's still lacking the gold for the Ags. He just can't jump in. He doesn't even have something like a BKB to protect from some of the stuns. So he can't make those flashy plays as we saw him try on the Ember. Just not able to. And Polaris 7-19, 11k up. This revitalized squad from Polaris, the Messiah boys are back. They are back in full form. This is the form I think you saw in particular, Aries, right before the DPC and BTS Pro Series. This is the kind of team that we were expecting, maybe a bit lacking in the DPC, but certainly in full form here after the fact.
Without a doubt. And that form, it's in particular in this game, it's only going to get easier to execute. Lelouch has got a goddamn Hex now. Still the Lincolns are yet to be completed. So you were already worried about the Doom prior and the single target control from the Dispose, from the Chaos Spell. Now, good luck dealing with the Hex. I mean, Lelouch 5-1-9, top of the net worth. Really feel like we put a lot of emphasis on the other heroes from Polaris this game, but Lelouch has had a very stable second game. Xavius? They might be able to blow up the... Oh, damn. Even Xavius doesn't die in the combo. Look off to the side. Makoto out of the equation. Savage is going to try and do it by himself. A BKB to charge down the supports, but they don't even get anyone. And Savage and KP, they'll both die hand in hand together. As at least they get a consolation prize off to the side. Q finding AU, but that... It's not enough to call it a worthwhile fight. As Talon, they lose out on 4 heroes.
Yeah, it's a big set of kills for Polaris. They can't even burst down this Warlock in a timely fashion. Polaris still hold on to the Aegis. They've got a clear shot onto the high ground. It's Q against the world. Respawns are fairly short. So Mikado will be back up. He does have the Ags this time around. So a little bit more presence from that Void Spirit, but with no BKB, with no protection, he's still a sitting duck to all of that control. Polaris has been very on point with using. And the game is just, it's almost impossible to see a comeback for Talon here. 8-23, 16k lead for Polaris. They're building into a BKB for Xavius. They've been very effective with Natsumi going into the Blood Torn next. More control to toss onto that Void Spirit without protection. Savage, not even close. Well, does finish up the Lincolns at least, but needs way more. Wants a Basher, wants a full Mjolnir, wants the Shard. And that's still more farm they need to stall out for. Savage now trailing behind Force. The Doom just eating so much. And Force is going for the Ags up. So additional break, longer duration Doom. Doesn't even feel necessary. Every single time he gets a Doom off, they're dead.
Yeah. I'm just trying to look at Makoto and what he can itemize next. I actually don't think, like, Lincoln's probably would be ideal. I don't think he can complete that, though, this game. He might be in a position where he has to go for another defensive item, and the Aeon Disc might be one of them. You could also consider a BKB, but I think it has to be a defensive item next here for Void Spirit. But you're behind. It's like you also want damage, you want this pick-off. It's such a difficult position to be in to make that call.
Tower is under attack.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to see the angle back in for Talon. Polaris have just been playing so well with this new roster, with having their coach come into play, with taking Force back in. The team's just managed to find what they want, and for Talon, it's a tough one to come back in from. 19k deficit. Map has shrunk, not too much room to get that filled up. They do at least have ward control over the triangle, so there's a safe spot for Savage to farm, but it's only really Savage safely farming. Oh, Xavius.
He's got some heroes behind him on the high ground. Rupture to the toss. First time we've really seen that combo so far this game. Alright, freebie for Savage. Gets him a bit close towards the shard.
Yeah, inching towards it. That can allow him to trade blows a little bit better. I don't know if it's going to be enough. Again, you need more damage output in Savage. You probably want him to be more durable as well. So he will just melt only 2.2k HP on him. Natsumi a little bit better off with the armlet off. And once that's on, just much more durable up front with his own lifesteal coming in from his crit. Polaris again, Aegis, only about a minute left. Double damage popped by Natsumi as well, so it doesn't look like they'll be able to pierce the high ground just yet. But with this sizable lead, it doesn't feel like there's a rush. They are going to smoke up here, though.
He's going to leave this ward, so it won't be in a position to pop it and get the blink away. A lot of items soon to reveal, and a scan as well. Oh no, they see Hyde. And they also see Savage. Great reaction to the BKB. He's actually just going to look to TP up with the rock. AU, the coach standing in. What an ultimate to be able to cancel Savage escaping. They'll get the +1 as well in Hyde.
Your time on this place.
Oh boy, it's looking tough. Great smoke out from Polaris to get the angle, to get the good jump in. Natsumi just head straight forward with Blink. And it costs you the golem. You don't really care. You don't need that golem for the high ground, it doesn't feel like. Just canceling that BKB TP is more than enough. Talon clumping around her ward here, though.
This is... I don't know. Xavius is not an easy man to kill. Alright, they blow him up, but what cost does it come with? It looks like it's a grave one. Makoto's down. The trade... Is it worthwhile for Talon?
What was I doing?
Not really. I mean, Xavius is worth a decent chunk of change, but AU is worth a lot more somehow on his Warlock, and he's inching closer towards that refresh on Warlock, double golem drop, more opportunities to just cancel TPs outright. Mikado, he gets a little bit of gold for his trouble, but it's equalized by his death. Nowhere near closer to that BKB that he desperately needs to hold off in these fights. Does stall out a bit on the progress for the tier 2s, so there's going to be some time for a high ground defense to clump up here from Talon.
I think they saw KP bottom. I'm not quite sure how. Maybe he ran through the outpost. Gets the BKB before Natsumi was able to hold him with the Chaos Bolt. Would have been nice if Lelouch was able to start with the Hex as well, but not going to be the case. The important thing is, though, that they get to bottom before he's able to deal with the wave, so Natsumi can shove this out, and they should be able to soon reconnect back to the triangle.
They've got a good angle back in. Talon still maintains their ward control there. So they've still got vision. They're still standing on that high ground, putting Polaris on the low. It's just a non-factor, because Polaris are just shoving in all the waves. They've got the Kotl with travels, can show up anywhere, and you can just slowly but surely pierce into that high ground. They might stall out for the next Roshan. A minute, 20 seconds until we see that timer back up. And I still don't see any play for Talon in that Rosh pit. Maybe a good arena. Doesn't feel like it's enough. The output, the damage from Talon isn't anywhere near close. And here's the smoke from Polaris.
Davies. Oh, the blink. Gets out of Q's initiation. Hesitant to go back up is going to be Polaris. Just keeping them locked inside the portion of the map. They do have the lanes getting shoved down. It looks like they want to get bot pushed in to be able to force Talon to leave the power location of that high ground and go back to base to defend. That's the call. How do you mount this defense? Maybe a rupture into the toss. Savage going to be cautious though, but the Lincoln's being popped and Natsumi's not going to mess around. The BKB making sure he doesn't give them that opportunity. That could be the play we're looking for, but when you take a fight outside the base, it's never going to happen. But when Polaris is sieging, you know, the rupture into the toss, into the spear, the little movement with the Aether Remnant, like, you got to get really crafty here on Talon, but you won't have that potential if the fight is out somewhere else on the map.
Yeah, they might force themselves into it. Smoke out here once more from Talon, looking for Polaris.
Invisibility.
And they catch up to them though. Polaris, well aware of this maneuver, backing up to their high ground. AU's a pretty big kill if they can get him. But McCabe's gonna hold them back for the moment. Can he have an opportunity to pop the rock? The damage is coming through pretty fast, and there we go. Warlock's out, but meanwhile, they're going to be able to jump in with the Doom, controlling 23 Savage. They don't have the Blood Seeker to provide the damage, and now the rest of Polaris are just swarming to the remaining members. 4 are down, the sole survivors going to be KP, somehow escaping to the east, but all they got was the Warlock out of that Polaris. Again, they just seem untouched in these fights.
Yeah, I mean, it takes so much just to blow out AU. It's a +5 Warlock. Yeah, it doesn't tend to take that much commitment, but they had to pop a lot just to find him there. And catching Savage off with BKB, the Lincoln's just not doing enough to protect. And that's Polaris ripping into the mid-set of racks. They could easily flank onto the bot, maybe even just figure, you know, we've got a winning formula here. We're very far ahead. We could try gunning for those tier 4s if they wanted to. I still don't see Talon having any play. They'll go for the safe route. Just push in bot. Mikado, Q are respawning soon on that Void Spirit and Tiny. So they might find an angle, but without Savage, you don't even have that Rupture tossback that has netted them a couple of important kills.
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
Oh man, Koto's cast range. Dude, what? Seeing how far these hexes being able to spellcast it from, it's just so dumb. It's so dumb.
Yep. It's just a mile away. Even just constantly solar binding people to prevent them from running around, just cutting off angles for Talon to look for that counterplay. Players, again, they're playing patiently. They're not jumping the gun. They're not providing any openings for Talon. They're just playing it safe, taking some fights, going back, taking some objectives, and playing it clean. Talon, again, trying to force a fight outside here.
Xavier's a perfect time to jump in to get the creeps, but also pop the smoke and get away with it. You know exactly where Talon are, and with the creeps soon to be inside the base, they're going to be forced back shortly to defend, and this is going to lose a lot of the map control that they've been able to get off the back of the smokes. And if you leave this area, then you're soon going to lose your ward, and as soon as that ward is not set up, then it seems like it's almost impossible to take the fight.
Yeah, and they even have that full refresh on AU. Double golem drop. Nothing to stop that. The BKB is just completely cancelled out. Polaris has everything. 11 to 30, 31k lead at 35.5 minutes in. And Talon, I just don't see an opening. I mean, they're constantly trying to go outside. You mentioned their high ground defense being the best bet they have, Ares, but Polaris don't even try to force high ground until a pickoff happens, and they might find that pickoff with a smoke.
Savage, he's going to show bottom as well, so they can take the team fight. They can just run up to the triangle. Xavius, he's a bit away from the team, though. They're going to be too late to connect. Natsumi's going to jump in to try and find the rebuttal. KP forced to drop a defensive arena so Makoto can reposition to the left side of the fight. And Makoto is actually going to jump back in. They know that BKB's on cooldown for Natsumi. They'll turn it back around with the first rock. They've got the threat of the second, but there we go. Rupture into the spear push away. Chaos Knight's killed up, but Savage stuck on the high ground because of the blinding light. There's Polaris. They'll swarm to his location, get the kill, and now they're even looking for an X1 to find Makoto. Be able to path his way down to the river next to Hyde, so they'll be okay.
Come on, sprites.
I mean, they find Natsumi, it just costs them a lot, and Polaris still doesn't mind. They do use the double golem out from AU. It's not going to have that tool for next engage. Talon, it just doesn't feel like they're gaining enough. They still gain a net positive there, though. 2k gold going their way despite those losses. So every single engage like that, where they can find bigger heroes, it is somewhat of a win. Still, the golems doing some good work on the objectives. Mikado.
What is that hex? Oh god.
Yeah, it's pretty much the entire screen with how the coddle is, so you're not safe on Talon's end. They do manage to save the melee racks, at least on Talon's part. Golems don't manage to get work done on that. But these fights are getting really scrappy. They need to find a way to save Savage. He is just the one being doomed up. That does provide Mikado room to play. But without Savage, you don't have damage. I think Mikado can dance around all he wants. He's got some protection with the Aeon Disc. But if Savage can't hit people with his shards and try to get the Mjolnir procs off, then it's still all for naught. So you've got to find some way of stopping Force. But even he has a refresh here, Ares. Double Doom ready to go.
Radiant are scanning.
First one is on cooldown at the moment, so they're just gonna posture again. Make sure Talon have this difficulty as they get outside the base. Well, they're going to see them with the blast. It pings instantly out, so they'll get confirmation. Okay, we saw last fight, it was kite the BKB on Natsumi, somehow don't lose multiple heroes through that duration, rupture into your toss or spear, whatever is going to be the possibility. But I like this call from Natsumi. This is an item that, if they don't win the game before the Lincolns, as soon as he gets it, this game's over. It completely gets rid of the only kill opportunity they have, I think, on the Chaos Knight.
Yeah, which just protects him really well. They are relying on the target control. They find
the Hex. Hex onto Makoto, the damage fall off and the stun control. They're going to bounce him to the left side. He tries to steal the Aegis, but Makoto playing without Astral Sep charges now. He's able to reposition down to the south, though. 23 Savage forced to stand his ground. But the Disposer is going to drag him away from Force's positioning. 4 down. Soon to be a wipe as well at the front of the pit. Makoto, he's got an ultimate up shortly, but AE will make sure that will not be enough to get him away. Or will it? Makoto is running underneath the ward, but Polaris, they don't care. They've claimed all the components of Roshan. They're even going to TP in Natsumi as well. Blink's still on cooldown. But they want the objectives instead. They want to close out this game and book their ticket over to Genting.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
I'll do better
Radiant
this time.
structures are fortified.
They've got the Golem sitting away. Fortify is there to stall, but without Savage, again, the damage, it's just not flying through.
Natsumi.
Oh boy.
This Force, is it going to be enough to get any abilities off? The Glimmer. Oh, Makoto just gets out. He's successful as well with Hyde. Savage is up in 30 seconds. Probably going to be up against Mega Creeps though.
Radiant's top barracks has fallen.
It's tough. With Force down, you might have an opening. He does still have that Doom on respawn, but he could still get recalled in. Not going to be a massive issue.
Avius. There's the jump. Focusing down Q at the moment. Gonna look to get rid of the Tiny to start the fight. Savage, he's still dead. He's unable to have the impact required to be able to maybe turn this fight around. Let's look at Natsumi. Even jumps on forward with a finishing blow after the use of the arena. And his mind's all about the objectives now. They want to deal with the Megas. Force is back alive. Looking for the Doom target. He's just pump faking as well. Polaris, they know they're in this prime position. They'll get rid of... Hang on. That's a lot of AoE damage. Makoto does get a second. Savage as well. With with the first movement speed, they're being able to kite Natsumi. He's got a second life to play with. Let's see how they're able to set up for this. Rock's on cooldown. It's just the supports on Polaris. They won't really be able to do too much here. Talon, can they get AU and Aether Remnant to cancel the TP? As Talon, they'll hold. What's it come at though? Tier 4 towers is still standing. It's not the mega creeps as well.
Tower is under attack.
Yeah, it's still super creeps. Bot melee still stands. A bit of a misplay from Force. He had his Doom. He didn't have double Doom, but he had one Doom and didn't manage to snag it onto Savage, so he was free to hit. His damage was flying through. As if the Doom doesn't come out, then you can play, but that felt weird. Polaris had all the tools available. They had the Doom. They could have just isolated Savage once more, and then finally take out that last Rax, get the Megas, start the lineup for the tier 4s. And it's a big win for Talon. It's a 3k gold swing. They are still heavily behind by 32k. And they're still having issues dealing with the double Doom, with the double Golem. The next few fights coming out from Polaris are still heavily in Polaris' favor, as long as they play their cards right. I do like that Savage is going for a refresh, so double BKB, double Rupture, or quad Rupture before he passes away is pretty big, and they can play without Talon's end quite nicely. And Mikado as well going for Lincoln. So multiple Lincolns coming out. I think you'd want one in KP, and then just start piling on these Lincolns onto Savage. Could be one way to protect and ensure your damage is going to stay relevant in these engagements. Talon, I mean, they're getting what they can off the map, off the back of those kills, but Lucius back with a vengeance.
And Savage is still here as well. Lincoln's actually going to pop the Doom. Force tries to get the second one off. He's going to be successful at doing so, but Savage, without a capability to refresh, Makoto's going to look to jump in, but he's got to get out. As soon as they bring down Savage, there's no way they can turn it around as Xavius gets the drag back. The ultimates are still on cooldown. They're going to be relying on the Chaos Bolt, but the Aeon Disc should be enough. Makoto, in fact, goes to the north, and he's out with the TP.
Yeah, it's a little bit awkward. They got caught off guard as well by Mikoto's Lincolns coming through at the end, so the secondary Doom out from Force was cancelled off. He did get the primary Doom onto Savage, and again, with the Ags upgrade, that break effect is kind of ruining the Bloodseeker in the middle. So they still find a favorable trade on Polaris' end. They could still force onto the high ground. Like, even without Force, I mean, you don't have to worry about Savage, Mikado. It might be an issue, but it does still feel like you have enough control with the double Golem still available in AU, so you still have your cards set, and at the least they should be able to find a Megas unless Talon somehow finds the weirdest angle in the world.
Xavius? There's the buyback coming out of Savage. KP, that is an incredible arena, but where's the follow-up? Blood Riot's going to get layered down. The Rock will hold them back to be able to jump in. Natsumi might be in a bit of trouble. They ruptured up the Chaos Knight. They've been able to control it for the moment. Savage is here. They get the double kill. Savage! Okay, they'll continue to hold this one out. Makoto sniffing out some of the remaining members on Polaris, but they are too speedy to get out of harm's way. John, I'm really trying to look at this win graph and see if it's ever going to change from 0%. I've been going back and forth after that last fight after the bottom defense prior to that one, seeing if it's going at least up to 1%. We're not there just yet as well off that hold.
Yeah, it's... I don't know how Talon's finding this, but KP gets a great arena on top. They forced this fight in Polaris without Force, and with Savage buying back, Force doesn't want to buy back. He only had 16 seconds, maybe 10 seconds left on the respawn. More than enough time for Talon to maximize this commitment from Savage. And that does still leave Talon in a very awkward spot where Savage will not have buyback if he gets caught outside in one of these Force fights. That will spell pretty much the end for Talon without that Bloodseeker to do the damage, to do that heavy lifting. So we'll see if that risk is worthwhile in the end. The side of Polaris is going to have to hold off. Roshan's still a ways off though, which is to the detriment more towards Talon because they desperately need a Roshan to buyback commitment. It's still a minute 10 away until we see that timer up. And Polaris should have full force by then, going to be able to line up themselves for the next Roshan, depending on the timer. We do have the refresh up in KP and on Savage, so the sets of Rupture are up. Double arenas ready to go. This might make the difference, but they have to do it again down bot. And this time, no double golem, but you do have the double doom ready.
The big thing is that the rupture damage they've been prioritizing onto Natsumi, as long as they can pop the Lincolns, that percent damage is a lot onto the Chaos Knight's health pool. And look at Davies, he's just looking to jump in, unleash with the BKB. KP? Again, KP! A 4-man arena, Makoto's in with the dissimulate some as well. Natsumi's falling low. They need the damage fall up, and Savage is just going to charge into the middle. Polaris! They've lost 3. Do they get any bashes? Bet they do! As Talon, another hold, get to the barracks, operation, defend against the Megas. And they've done just that for not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row now.
I don't believe this. Polaris had everything, and KP stepping up to the plate, delivering the goods, gets an awesome arena once more. And this refresh on Savage, this tech, man, it's ruining Polaris. He's just managing to... He doesn't care for Lincolns. He's going to have 4 ruptures no matter what. It's like, all right, you guys feel protected? You have double doom? Guess what? I have 4 ruptures. I don't care. You guys are going to stand still. You're going to allow me to hit. And KP doesn't quite find anything. Getting a bit eager, but that's the opening for Talon. He'll at least find a mid. Roshan, a minute away. That's still enough time for Blast to respawn.
He's got BKB backup. Should be fine.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
No glyph on Dire. They stick around for the tier 3. I think you're looking to get out. Top lane, you need to defend. You need to get ready for Roche. But it's a question of, John, can they replicate these fights away from the base? These are 3 fights they've been able to win where Polaris are just honestly mindlessly running up the high ground in a way. KP back-to-back fights, 4-man arenas. KP's doing it. Savage again with the initial damage from the rupture. 20% of your current health. That is a ridiculous amount on the Chaos Knight. And this guy needs to be mobile, and he cannot be. And it's as soon as you get that damage out, KP just runs in with a thirst. And if they don't have the rock to hold them back, then he's just blowing up heroes. So this is... We're in for a hell... It's 13%! Oh, God. It's 13%!
Radiant are scared.
I guess they're gonna need 3 more of those fights to drag it up to 20, 26 at least. Well, we'll see. Talon gonna try to smoke again. And looking for a fight outside. Roshan is up. That is something Mikado's keeping track of with his illusion, and might spot Polaris if they do decide to take a peek, although their smokes won't break. They don't get hasty as well. So, Roche not going to be revealed by either side just yet. They do... Well, they know Natsumi's taking a look. And maybe force an issue by the pit. The pit could still be in good area for Talon, but...
It's a really good ward they can play with.
It's not tight.
It's a really good ward they can play with. They're in. Talon with the jump on Xavius. They're going to see the rest of Polaris retreating to the right side. KP gets the arena out. The Doom's going to be a little bit too late, so it'll hold them back for the moment. But the double rock KP... They have to sustain to keep the Mars alive, and Savage is going to charge in. A secondary kill. He might tick out, though, on KP. What do they have to keep him alive? Hide? They're going to keep him alive? Oh, my lord.
God. Roshan's hoping no buyback in Xavius. He did buy back last time around. 1 Doom down from the equation for Force. Does still have the refresh Doom available. But someone's got to step back and defend. That bot's going to be shoved in. You've got the Luce just clearing out the creep wave with the Illuminate as he tends to do.
Get to the barracks!
And Talon doesn't have the opportunity.
Oh my lord. Wait, this ward's going to see Lelouch. Q's trying to catch up. Q does. BKB's on cooldown still. Wait,
what's happening?
What's going on? What? A first toss. Makoto's got the follow-up. They just stood still. Q is playing with his food and they get him still.
What's happening?
Oh my lord. We are in for a thriller. We are in for a thriller.
Oh my god, Aries, look at that graph. I've never seen such a deep dive into a dive back up like this. That flat line, 0%, no saving grace. The doctors have put you up. You're gone. Comes back, gets a heartbeat back in, and it's still not looking good for Talon. Let's be fair here. Polaris still looks stronger. They still have these double dooms, double golem drops. They've still got 2.5 set of racks their favor. You know, they've got damage off the kazoo, but Talon are just finding openings. Polaris, something's not connecting, and I'm not sure what, but they're giving openings for Talon to play. This itemization from Savage, again, has been massive. That refresh has allowed him to just get everything they need. Just the ruptures towards late game. It just scaled so well. It is pure damage percent based, so it just punishes Polaris when they want to make a move in. And so all of a sudden, refresh shard on hand, ages up on Savage. I mean, what has happened?
What a beautiful game Dota 2 is. 2,000 net worth lead. This means jack at this stage in the game. You're asking what's going wrong for Polaris. I feel like it's just the initiation. Talon have been the ones to get the jump. You need Force to be going in. You need to get that ultimate out. You need to get the second ultimate out. But the one, you've got Lincolns now. You got the Void Spirit Lincolns. You got the Bloodseeker Lincolns. Could even be a consideration if KP requires that, but it comes down at this stage of the game. It's vision, and it's who gets the initiation. And these last couple of fights, it's been Talon with that advantage.
Yeah, they've been able to play along with it well, and we have to consider some of the scaling from the supports now, right? Like, Hyde does have his raid pack, Hurricane Pike going into the Moon Shard. So, you know, even the Enchantress is going to be an issue in damage once the BKBs fade, and you're certainly not dooming an Enchantress. So she's going to be free to stand there, get a good position, toss out those impetuses, and still provide some output. Not amazing output, but some output to help the cause. Plus, they've lost the lead. It's 1K. It doesn't matter at this point. We're 52 minutes in, but to lose that much net worth is telling.
And they're going to get the Warlock as well. Makoto with the freebie. He was trying to deal with the higher gun, but not going to be a possibility. And we get a little bit of gold as well coming through for the gold. Thank you very much. Oh my, oh my.
I don't know what to say, man. I mean,
okay.
0%. I've never seen Dota Plus change its mind about 0%. Never. Never has it bounced back from 0 or 1. And it's to be fair, it's still Polari 67%, right? Like, they still have the winning formula here, Aries. They still have the majority of the racks. The map is still disgustingly small for Talon. And they still have all this team fight. They still have Doom. They're still very relevant. But they need to play to their strengths here, Aries. If they keep coming in one by one, you've basically thrown a game.
Yep.
A ticket away to Ginting. You do not want to do that in this kind of game.
Okay, so this is a really important play from Polaris. What they did prior, they had Xavius move to the triangle, drop a ward down on the cliff. This is a location they can take a fight in. Talon probably are not expecting a ward to be set up there. Oh, Force? The Remnant, it's not going to be enough though. Xavius can close the distance. They need to TP into the outpost. Aeon's going to buy him a little bit of time. Hyde's going to be in, but regardless, the sustain will not matter. Makoto's down. Can they capitalize on this opportunity to get any rebuttals kills? And they should be able to onto the Enchantress. Wait, Mimo, we're Savage! We're Savage! Savage! No, not like this! The team's away. You can't be making multiple plays at the same time.
Oh, he does have buyback at least. Still has the refresh shard and refresh orb. So when he does come back in, that's a lot of ruptures coming on. 6 ruptures to at least come out. Multiple BKB uses if need be. But they've got to find a way to make that happen. They have at least taken out one of the Dooms of Force. He did use the refresh. And there is still the double golem ready on AU. They need to find this last set of racks, force the buyback, punish Savage, close out the game for Polaris to get to Ginting. And Talon backs against the wall now. With that death on Savage, they do not want to expend a buyback yet. They need to keep stalling. They've got a Revenant's Brooch on Mikado, so going all in from that Witchblade. And he's been doing pretty great work with the Octarine and just how spammy his spells are. All eyes on KP to try to find that opening now. Like, they've been playing really well with the Arenas. KP has been setting up for the team. Polaris being sneaky with a smoke across the map, though. Gonna try to find another angle in. Dicey for Talon. A minute for Savage here.
I don't know how they're going to be able to hold this. They do have Glyph. Hey, let's see how they can poke and prod. KP's at the ready. Got the ward as well, so they're going to be shouting out the heroes behind Natsumi. They do kind of push past the crystal. 30 seconds. Maybe they wait till the Demaci's up and then look to jump. AU? Oh, okay, they see KP. KP, there's the jump. They pop the Lincolns. Natsumi with the follow-up. That's a big kill. KP's been all their team fight. And he doesn't have a buyback. He bought out for the Lincolns. They also forced the buyback out of 23 Savage. Meanwhile, the Rupture controlling the Chaos Knight for the moment. They're going to try and look to get the toss back. Makoto's in with the damage. Natsumi, they should be able to secure the kill, but can they keep the barracks alive? Savage turns back around, gets rid of Xavier's, gets rid of the Golem as well. So Talon, they will hold, but the throne's exposed. They need to deal with the creeps.
Radiant's Ancient.
I mean, you're still happy on Polaris? You forced the buyback on Savage? You have the Ancient exposed. You don't need to mess around with this Rax if you wanted to. Just dig deeper onto the high ground. KP still a minute away. Big opening for Polaris still. No Golem left though. One Doom left on the refresh. Let's see if that's going to be enough to handle here.
He's looking for the toss. They get the Chaos Knight. He just pulled back.
No.
Natsumi, you just pulled back, sir. You cannot die. They're going to try and keep the bonus health. Q gets the toss away, but that's enough. A dieback on Natsumi. Operation Protect Savage, and they'll secure that as well. Turn towards the Mega Creeps, but they won't even be able to get that. As Polari just mindlessly jumping inside the base, but they'll get no kills, nor any objectives. A Remnant, the Simulate stun, finally. They at least get the Tiny, but that's not the worthwhile kill they were hoping for.
What? What has happened? I mean, I'm actually just completely flabbergasted. Polaris, they lose the lead. Look, this is still terrible for Talon. Like, this position on the map, the kills are great, with no tier 4s to defend. All the racks still standing for Polaris. Tier 2 still stands up top. You do not have a clear avenue to go into the high ground for Talon to use these plays. But they're holding on.
Are scanning.
And the fact that Polaris can't end this game is just providing some openings for Talon to maybe, you know, if they find another fight outside of base, if they somehow keep these creeps away from the Ancient, they could rush tier 4s with these diebacks.
They do have a big issue with how they can... Wait, Makoto? Oh my god, Lelouch is just... shipping the night multiple times, passing KP, passing Makoto now.
Dire's middle tower.
Oh boy. Pine's got a Deso. They might be all in for it. They want to force a BKB on Lelouch. That's really important for the Coddle to be able to position, but he might not have the opportunity. AU to the side with the Glimmer, kept the chain control coming through from the Refresher. Talon, look at the space they're making. One tier 4 down, second exposed as well, but Makoto is just holding them back, almost solo killing the Coddle. KP again.
Oh no.
Arena's out, tier 4s are down, through and exposed. This is one of the best comebacks I have ever seen as Talon! We are going to a game 3, ladies and gentlemen. Talon will tie up this series 59 minutes in. Daddy Gaben said there was no opportunity, 0%, no chance for them to come back, but Talon prove it to be otherwise.
I mean, Polaris played such a good game. Talon, they looked like they had no openings for such a long time. They were behind in every aspect of the game. Map control was off their hands. The kills were heavily in Polaris's favor. The farm was there. They were trying to force these fights outside with smokes that never panned out. And all of a sudden, for that last set of racks down bot, Polaris go a bit too far. And suddenly the openings appear. They play with a Rupture really well on Talon. It takes them maybe like 40 minutes or 35 minutes until they start playing around with that aspect from Savage. But they manage to get it out and they just make it work. The itemization on Savage to go for that refresh on the Bloodseeker, to have that presence, just to have those multiple Ruptures to eat through them. I actually do not understand what happened. Polaris had such a good game. That was almost perfect from them. And they had the refresh Doom, they had the refresh Golems, they had literally everything. But they make a few tiny mistakes, just a couple of mistakes, clumping up a bit too much for the arena, getting too confident that Rupture won't do anything to you. And just that one missed Doom from forcing that one high ground fight when he refreshed did not Doom Savage when he bought back. Just those small mistakes like that open up the game, and I've never seen that kind of graphics. Never. Not in my 5 years. I've never seen that.
Yeah, I was kind of just mesmerized by it a little bit. I was just looking at the graph. It was a good 10 minutes, maybe a little bit under, where there was a 0% probability. 0% probability for Talon. I mean, the net worth was over 30,000, was like 35, maybe even a little bit higher. With all the chaos going on, didn't even notice Savage had a rapier at the end to be able to deal with the throne. That is just... You've completely taken all the wind out of Polaris. I mean, this is a team that, again, were the underdogs. Coming into this series, a lot of people expecting Talon to take it. They lose game 1. They are down 35,000 gold. And honestly, they should have no hope in the world of being able to win this game. Polaris, they should have their ticket over to Genting already. But now I don't know how they recover. I really do not know if they are going to be able to recover. Like, this is a team that... We've seen them, that they've been together. Of course, AU's been with them for quite some time in regards to the coach, Force. He's no stranger to these guys as well, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to recover from a loss like that, because that is going to be so devastating.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to mentally gather from. We'll see if Polaris can bounce back. Look, they shouldn't feel too bad. They had such an amazing early game. Yeah. I think you can look at that. You can look at how game 1 went, and you'll be like, we are still better than Talon. They can still confidently say that, and they just need to go into that game 2 with their heads held high. But you can see Talon, they're not going down without a fight here. And you have to also respect that. This is a strong team. They were number 2 in the DPC for a reason.
They were, like you said, number 2 DPC, a major team as well, and they are never out of a series or a game. Talon, what a performance to be able to come back 0%, down 35,000 gold. But it's only fitting. We go game 3 for our last series here of the Southeast Asian qualifiers to determine who will be that second team to make it through. We already have Boom over there, Fnatic, of course, with the direct invite, but it's now time to determine if it will be the lads on Talon or if it's going to be Polaris who take this game 3. Stick around, guys. This series is only going to get crazier.
Goddamn, that's my soul food. I'm winning for the record, check your memo, bro. Generation of destruction, you'll remember us. LSD used to do promethazine, only THC, NSC is minor lean. We no longer up next, on top, like your girl, when she counting my checks.
There's no defense, I'll buy it if I want it. I'm going supersonic, come on back for it. Alright, okay, running out of luck, too much in my cup. Nisi, run it up. Why you always tripping like you top? Cause you not my team bop. Shawty, I know. Why you always tripping like you top? Cause you not my team bop. My team bop.
spills your blood. A whisper out fills your head, but you have to fight again. So take one step, take another. Find the strength for your brothers. Erase the doubt with your battle cry. With your battle cry. You feel the earth move to the drum of steel boots. Banish the fear inside. You're strong enough that you don't have to hide. No, you don't have to hide. You're strong enough with your battle cry. Brings you to your knees.
You thought that I was blind, but to be honest, I don't mind. Cause I don't feel the same way I used to do. Every time I see you, know the truth. Cause baby, every fucking time you've played me, you should know that I don't give a single fuck about you and your words. All the times you lied to me, bitch, I took notes. I don't know what to say. I thought you loved me, but you ran away. I've been living in the shadows for a while. Demons calling me from the afterlife. Dark doesn't face me anymore. I can see my tears into gold. Yeah, yeah. I don't care, no, I don't care. Yeah, yeah. I don't care, I said, cause baby, every fucking time you've played me, you should know that I don't give a single fuck about you and your words. All the times you lied to me, bitch, I took notes. I don't know what to say. I thought you loved me, but you ran away. I know people come and go away. Sun's low, that's my time to shine again. Cause baby, every fucking time you play me, you should know that I don't.
Sarah, I hurt myself today trying to make the pain go away. Sarah, I want to fade away, be with the stars in outer space. You come and you go, you take me high, you take me low, but I don't know how to do this on my own anymore. Oh no, now it's my leave for the melancholy. Couldn't fill a hole inside me. Damned if I do, damned if I don't. Now it's Xannies till I numb my psyche. Cocaine just to feel my heartbeat. Nothing to.
Wow. What a game to put us in a position where we go the distance here. Polaris taking on Talon. an incredible comeback. And we're mentioning a little bit worried here for Polaris now. Potentially the momentum has completely been flipped on its head. The fact that Talon were able to somehow find a way back in and even up our series. And John, I really wouldn't want it any other way to go game 3 to determine who will take that last slot.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't think we'd get a game 3. I thought Polaris would have that 2-0 easy after the first half of that second game. It just looked like Talon had no play. Polaris makes a few mistakes along the way and provide Talon the opening, and suddenly we're in this situation where Polaris, it's not such a free ticket to Ginting anymore. Everything on the line with one more game that they probably didn't need to play if everything went according to plan in that last game. And now Talon are switching gears. Almost every single game that you play against Talon, that you see teams play against Talon, the first 2 bans are always KP specials. It's always the Brewmaster and always the DP. Talon gets first pick. They ban the Dawnbreaker instead, and Talon does get to pick up that KP offlane Death Prophet. So it's a strong comfort pick for him. We saw him get a strong performance from Mora's last game. Maybe not in the first half of the game, though. He was missing some arenas. Some spears weren't connecting. Polaris were dancing around, sidestepping quite well. So, but he did deliver the goods later on. With his Death Prophet, it does feel a lot more consistent for KP. So this should be something Talon's very familiar with. For Polaris, they do go straight into their next 2 picks, back-to-back, no waiting around, into the tiny Enigma. So they've got Black Hole, they've got a great way of playing around that, but Talon just goes straight into the Bristle first phase. Great ways of clearing out the Eidolons, doesn't care too much in lane, up against, say, the off-lane Enigma if it does come out here for Force. But if it's not Force playing then it's just Xavius playing that as well, which is the same thing anyway. In fact, one could argue Xavius playing the Enigma. We've seen this a few times from Polaris in the DPC.
5 seconds
He tends to, just leave that lane in jungle. So that provides a very soft lane for the Bristleback to just play and free farm it.
Regardless of what role the Enigma's in, it's going to be a free farming lane for the Bristleback. This hero just completely deals with the Enigma. It's an incredible pick. You've got the AoE physical damage, of course the Eidolons having all the magic resistance, so you want to have another way to be able to deal with them. And it's interesting. A lot of people have kind of 2 ways to address the Enigma. Some people, you're going to look at the Black Hole to kind of deal with that. Rubik, Wyvern, anything like that, and then kind of BKB piercing for late game. But then you can look at it in the other aspect of you just want to deal with the Enigma in the lane. And I think the Bristleback is definitely one of the better heroes to do that. You can even put Conquer in there, but that hero isn't played as much. So I like this on Talon because now you can also protect it. Look at this. Timber Band, Viper Band. They can go for another band as well to protect the 23 Savage Bristle.
And for Polaris, they're allowing a lot of openings for Talon to still have that pause 5, pause 4 with that Pierce on the Enigma. Winter Wyvern still on, well, no, Winter Wyvern was banned out, but the Rubik's still in the pool here. If they wanted that spell steal, Silencer could be an option, although that's definitely kind of dead in the water. So probably not the cleanest pickup for Talon, but the Rubik, Polaris don't ban it out. I can see Q playing a Rubik game. Death Prophet Rubik lane also isn't too shabby. It does provide enough control, enough harassment with the dual range. It can make it a bit slower for the safe lane of Polaris to play with as well. So Polaris, I'm keen if they are actually worried about that possibility, because outside of the Enigma, Tiny's already pretty good to steal from. Polaris will have to show their hand first as well with additional support, and they ban out the Pango. So Rubik's still in the pool. Let's see if Polaris or if Talon really wants to pick that up here.
Even a Wyvern's a potential for Talon if they want to go down that route, 16th, 17th, which I think would actually be pretty nice with DP and Bristle, because both heroes that want to go in, having a save can just buy them some time, get that bonus health back. But for Polaris, you're probably looking at your position 5 here to be picked up. Trying to see what the answer is going to be, though. A little bit of damage is always going to be nice. Maybe, you could even argue there needs to be... Actually, if it is an Enigma 3, you can go Spirit Vessel. Toby on Entity really likes going Spirit Vessel and Blink on the Enigma. I haven't seen too much, actually, the Wraith Pack from him, but I think this is a must game on someone on Polaris has to go Spirit Vessel. It does not matter who it is, but you need to get a Spirit Vessel.
Yeah, you just got to put a dent in the DP sustain and the Bristleback as well if he does eventually get Spell Lifesteal. Going to be a menace up in the front line. So Keen to see what Polaris will take, if it's something else here that can't pick it up. They've been digging into the reserve time so much more than Talon. Like, Talon is completely untouched on reserve time. They're just bouncing back. Maybe some of that momentum you mentioned there after such a wild game 2, that Polaris are forced to take a step back, think a lot more about these pickups. They will take the Shadow Demon, so they've got a good form of slowing down, controlling the Bristle, a good way of isolating these heroes as well. They can make some massive stacks, and they have a lot of play with a Shadow Demon. We haven't seen it as much in Southeast Asia. It's been kind of tapering off in popularity, but you still have the Shard, you still have the Ags build up. This could be one really good way to, again, just lock in onto the Bristle and prevent him from having a good game.
Yeah, it's a really nice pick with the Purge in particular. I'm just a bit concerned though for Polaris is that I don't think they can make plays pre-blink on Tiny. If it's going to be a Lelouch Tiny, it could come out a little bit faster. If it's not going to be, I think they've got big issues on how they're going to be able to make plays across the map. So it has to come down to, again, if it is a 4 Tiny, then your position 2 on Lelouch needs to be an active kind of playmaking hero.
It's funny as well. If you are running the mid Tiny, we used to see mid Bristleback as a solution. They do pick up the Void Spirit and Talon, so that possibility is knocked away. Void Spirit versus Tiny is still pretty alright as well for both heroes. But I would have liked to see maybe a throwback to that time. I remember old Army Geniuses with Mamang Daya being the ones kind of fond of running that Bristleback mid. Remaining. So probably not happening here, of course, with Void Spirit. Still, we talked about that potential for the Rubik. With a Shadow Demon, there's so many good spells for the Rubik to steal. Like, outside of even just the Enigma. So they give full value for Talon to get that Rubik pickup. And Talon does have room to just last pick what seems to be our Hyde here, although I believe Hyde has also played a Rubik 5 before at least once. They could gun for something else on Q, but Talon are showing their full set of hands for the most part. Now, mind you, you could maybe run a high DP Q Rubik, last pick a KP hero. That might cause Polaris to think twice on the bans. They will take the Kunkka on their end, so that does signal that the Tiny should be a support here for Xavius. And the Lelouch Kunkka showing up, again, one of his specialties on mid, can really put a dent on that Void Spirit here.
And I think just importantly, it's a hero that can make plays, because they did have a big issue with being able to do that. Not an easy person to kill. Can kind of go into the Silver's Edge if he feels required and necessary to deal with the Bristleback. I just want to quickly mention another hero you said as well for Talon. I think the Monkey King is something that they really like to consider with the Death Prophet, and I'd like it a lot just in regards to vision, to be able to find the Shadow Demon, stop the Tiny Enigma getting the jump. I think this hero also being able to control the team fight as well would be really nice, but it is something that Talon in their Division 2 run, they really like the Monkey and Death Prophet lane in the side lane. And we also saw them run it actually, I think, on day 1 of the qualifiers.
Yeah, that could still fit in. I just worry about running that, say, off-lane Bristle for KP. If that was the case, if Savage would take the Monkey King 1. It feels like, KP does well on heroes that playmate from the offlane.
I think you give it, like, you go Savage Bristle, but then you give it to Q as the Monkey. You go
Q Monkey
DP
and then
Monkey lane.
Hyde Rubik.
Yeah.
Okay. That could work. I feel bad about separating Q from Rubik, though. I think he's just such a prolific Rubik player, but Hyde is also really damn good. He used to play Pause 4. It does feel greedy. I think that's my one concern. If you do run that Rubik 5, the Blink, the Shard, even the potential down the line Ags upgrades, really not going to be coming out in the Pause 5. So that could be something that slows it down. You can see Polaris are expecting a support last pick. They ban out the Enchantress we saw last time. They ban out the Dazzle. They don't want to have to deal with all of that sustain coming out, all of that save. We'll see what Talon does plan. I mean, as you said, Monkey King could still slide in Ares. Could still work out here, although it might make it a bit awkward, but it does provide a lot of what they need.
What do you feel like is kind of those flaws that Talon in particular need to cover?
They don't have the best team fight control. Like your stuns are basically just the remnant and the lift, and the clockwork kind of fixes that. So a little bit more control. A great way of canceling Black Hole, right? Like, you don't necessarily even have to steal it. You just find an angle with a hook shot. BKB or not, that Enigma's not going to channel. So I like this response from Talon. That should be the Hyde hero. They've got really nice aggressive lanes. It's not quite that wide team fight control. It's no Black Hole. It's no boat, no X-Torrent combination in a wide area. But Cogs will be effective in doing what it wants. Polaris will go back to the Natsumi CK. And it does feel like a pretty damn decent CK game. The Bristle does have wave clear though. But in terms of lane DP versus CK, KP should be able to sustain, but Natsumi should, again, I expect them to have that great progression that we saw in game 2.
Yeah, I like the CK getting picked up. I think the important thing is that it gives you a hero who can come online relatively early, because Talon are going to look for a gigantic timing around this Scepter on Savage. If he can get Vanguard, Scepter, KP probably first item, BKB, they're just going to mow them down. And I was considering like a Phantom Assassin just for the burst on the DP, and the Shard's really nice versus the Bristle, but I thought you would have lost that lane. Shadow Demon PA is not really good. It would have been really slow as well. And that is the big thing that the Chaos Knight provides you. A strong laning carry that is able to blow up the Death Prophet if he's able to kind of equal the farm. The Phantasm does a ridiculous amount because DP is very low armor. But it's just a hero, again, that comes online early. And that's really something they were requiring out of Polaris.
Yeah, and it kind of ties in well with the Kunkka that they have, right? You have this durable pos 1, the boat buff is going to be massive, you've got saves from AU, you've got even more illusions to deal with from the CK because of the Shadow Demon. So this can tie into Polaris' higher pace game. For Talon, I mean, that Ag's timing Bristle can be fast, but if it's off to a slower game, you're going to be stalling out for Savage once more. And I think the momentum will have to come out here from Mikado and KP. Like, the timing in Savage will have to be there as well. But to buy that space, this Void Spirit has to have a good time against the Kunkka. And that lane match, we just tend to see the Kunkka pull away way more, because Tidebringer is such a balanced spell. Low cooldown, lots of physical damage. You can try to block some of it with a Resonant Pulse. It's not enough to really sustain you there.
John, how are we feeling, mate? We're going the distance here. Game 3, for me, I feel like this is a really, really even draft. Like, I don't feel like we're, too one-sided in regards to the draft. So I feel like it's still going to come down to a bit of execution. But off the back of the draft and before we see the plays occur, who do we feel like has that slight edge?
I don't know what to say. I think it's really even, as you mentioned. It's hard to say because there's so much back and forth you can get done here. You've got good setup for the Kunkka with just a Shadow Demon. You've got the threat of Black Hole. It's going to be consistent, but also not reliable because of the presence of Clockwork and Rubik. I would lean slightly towards Talon, but I can see Polaris playing the early to mid game a lot better. And we might end up in a scenario where Talon just loses the map a lot more. They're not going to have that scaling damage as they had with the Bloodseeker with Rupture. At the same time, they're not dealing with multiple Golems and multiple Dooms. They only really have to worry about the massive Black Holes from Force, which again is counteracted by the draft. So early to mid game, leaning towards Polaris, maybe towards the later part of the game. Talon might have a little bit of an edge. The Bristle versus CK matchup, though, it's a little bit awkward. And I think clearing out the CK Phantasms might be down to Mikado more than anyone else with at least his AoE burst.
See, I think the nice thing as well, you've got multiple heroes that can build into the Silver's Edge, so you have this flexibility if the Kunkka wants to go it or the Chaos Knight wants to go it. I'm hoping Enigma does go Vessel, although it is really something I've seen pretty specific on player, and again, Toby on Entity likes that, so I haven't really seen it kind of anywhere else, and I really think it is. I think you have to go for it this game. I again said I don't care who picks it up. This is a game where you're against a DP and a Bristle back. A must purchase item. So we'll see if he's gonna kind of change up the Vlads. And we've kind of also seen as well, on a side note real quick, in regards to Enigma's itemizations, it's been, if you are heavily counted in regards to the Black Hole, the Wraith Pack does tend to be kind of the another nice route. So we'll see how Force is going to be able to find his impact. Regardless, so we get a 2 for 2. What is that one lane we are looking for in regards to set up either team? What lane has to go really well?
I feel like it's really down to mid. Both the Kunkka and the Void Spirit are kind of these tempo-setting cores, and I expect Lelouch to still have a great time here. Like, again, just using the Tidebringer to shove away Mikado. Rune Control not as important for the Kunkka. He's always going to have the X TP back if need be. And you have great support rotations that can come in with the Shadow Demon and with the Tiny down the line. So I expect way more aggression out from Polaris onto the mid to apply way more pressure onto Mikado and again, slow him down in that Void Spirit.
It's going to be a matchup that...
AU?
The old top lane, AU. One more right click. Oh boy. Alright, well the Shadow Demon is not the greatest laning support, but it's level 1 from Talon, so they're going to be able to find the kill hide without the windlace or the boots to be able to close the distance, but it looks like 310 movement speed over the 290 was enough to play with the battery assault.
Yeah, and this is a lane that can play aggressive down the line for AU. Once he has the Shadow Poison and the Soul Catcher, your CK should be enabled by level 3, level 4. So Chaos Strike's going to be a bit more built up. You can just run down. The Clockwork has a bit of an awkward time in trying to get the battery assaults with the illusion spam as well. So you can kind of cut off that aggression. But dealing with KP is a different matter, right? Like as you mentioned, you can kind of burst her down once Phantasm's up. Before that point, Spirit Siphon's really good against that melee hero trying to chase up to you. So you'll always have the sustain, especially by the time that Spirit Siphon hits that level 2.
For bottom lane, we're seeing the difficulties from Force on the Enigma. 4 and 4. I can't imagine this is going to be a lane where he's going to be able to find too much farm.
Yeah, it's going to be slower. Like we have seen a lot of Southeast Asian Enigmas just kind of settle into that farm, settle in for the denies. You have to be careful in Xavius. It doesn't have much armor to deal with the Quill Spray spam.
Maleficus, is it going to be enough? Savage going to be held back. No point in the nasal goo just yet for 23 Savage, and that was a lot of mana expended as well. Q hasn't brought out any mangoes to kind of help out for the Bristleback. What's he got on the courier? Oh, he's got 2 mangoes. Okay, he's chilling.
Just going to get back in there. I think the one issue for Polaris is, again, just having the Enigma plus Tiny. It's a super passive lane. There are some angles you can play with Maleficus into the toss back, but getting those opportunities, especially against something as tanky as a Bristle, hard to see coming. And you've always got the Rubik to save with a pulled back anyway, as long as it's off cooldown. Are being aggressive up top here.
Dire's structures are fortified.
Just a bit of a back and forth poke.
Get the creeps. Yeah, KP's going to have to go back. Try and stop the neutral from claiming the wave. Bottom lane, they are diving Xavius. Force trying to rely on the body blocks to get Xavius out of harm's way. They might just turn to Force instead. 4 quill stacks. T2 tower, is it enough of a deterrent? It looks like it will be. Hang on, Xavius, what is going on? They are playing with fire. Can he get in range for the quill? Savage does just close the distance. A second kill for Talon picked up.
That's really important. You talked about that snowball for Savage. It's building up. He's doing well in CS. He's finding kills for himself. He is draining himself of mana. No sustain coming out. He's got Clarities flying in now. So going to be able to at least have some more presence out there.
Top lane
again has been a little bit back and forth.
Just getting out of the cogs. AU being able to help out with the illusions to tank up that battery assault.
Yes, it's just... I mean, you can, again, be aggressive, but you're not at that point. Level 1 Shadow Poison's nice. You really might want that value point in Soul Catcher to allow the Burst of Natsumi to really shine, but it's not coming out. And with how tight in these side lanes are, it is actually allowing Mikoto to play. There's no threat of X setup. There's no threat of these supports leaving that lane vulnerable. So the Void Spirit's able to work the lane a lot more, and Lelouch, I mean, he's still doing well above Mikado, but not by a huge amount. The Void Spirit should be able to match that level 6 spike here.
It's going to be a hero that's a little bit more mobile as well to get to the side lanes. I think it really comes down to just the power runes, which we will have the first spawn up in a minute 10. So the lanes are looking a little bit better at the moment for Talon, so that can help out with bringing some supports mid to maybe enable Makoto. Because if he does get that first rune, gets a kill into the side lane, then all of a sudden we could see the Void Spirit snowball. Kind of this hero does rely on that.
Yeah, and the momentum for both sides feels like it's relying on both the Conka for Polaris and the Void Spirit for Talon. Just hit that stride. We're going to have to see who does start to commit to get that happening soon. I think the one issue is it feels like the offlane of Polaris is just not doing as well as the offlane of Talon. Like KP's having a little bit of better time on the DP. Number 1 in net worth. Force in comparison is bottom net worth core. And doesn't really stop Savage from just finding farm. He might get tossed back here, but...
Savage? It's a lot of quills stacking up. Telekinesis Xavius a little bit closer. Meanwhile, top lane, Lelouch with the rotation. Drops the boat, but KP... He's playing with the Spirit Siphon in the moment to get himself back to a respectable health pool. Gotta be cautious about the Shadow Poison as well. Can they get a 5th stack to bring down KP? Oh, they do! AU, that is huge. Just on the edge, gets the Shadow Poison, and a beautiful rotation from Lelouch is able to set up for the double kill.
They really needed that. They needed to find a way to slow down KP, give Natsumi a little bit more breathing room to farm up. CK is just really behind.
Should be killed off from Savage. They will not require the Goo to continue in the chase. They're going to get a rebuttal though. Force, alright. I honestly wasn't expecting the Eidolons to do that much damage at level 2, but it's enough to kill off Q.
Not for you.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trade. Still feels a lot better for Savage, getting that EXP his way. And Xavius now has to be cautious, getting the Tiny with no armor without Grow, just showing its weaknesses up against Bristle. This is why you used to see mid-Bristle as a solution to mid-Tiny, again, usually from Mamang Daya. Savage has a full Vanguard. He's not scared of anything now.
Maybe a T2 tower you should be pretty scared about. Okay, wow. Oh man, we're not supposed to tickle him like that. Savage is going back in. Oh, what's going on? Top lane as well. Makoto with the rotation. We'll keep tabs back on bottom though as Lelouch is trying to catch out Savage. They need the banishment to allow Lelouch to close the distance. Maybe the throw actually can slow him down. And there we go. Lelouch is out with the combo. They get the magic damage required to bring down 23 Savage, his first death of the game.
Big kill coming out, Lelouch again. Kind of saving the day there for Polaris with his timely rotations. Freeing up a bit of a push for Talon up top, though. They don't even pop the Exorcism on KP, so it's going to be around for a team fight, maybe for that mid shove in. And Polaris, they could try to go for a push themselves if Force did want to commit the Eidolons, but he's having to walk back into that lane. So a bit of an opening for Talon in terms of holding that map.
Just a kill on Makoto. I saw him TP down. I thought it was a cord that they were jumping, but just a measly Xavius. No one cares about the Tiny. At least you keep Force alive. They are... Natsumi might be in trouble. Look at the ward they're playing with. Placed previously from high. It's going to be able to catch out Natsumi farming in the jungle, and now they might consider linking this into the tier 1 tower as well. Let's see how they can play with the Exo. KP's just going to run aggressively under the tower. They've got the control to lock him in. Let's see if they have to burst as well. Xavius, no, the Cogs gets the push back, but the toss still to close the distance. And in the end, KP will go down. They have a window, though, to kill off Force as well down bottom. So, John, what's going on, man? Game 1, Game 2. We've had a really kind of slow-paced early game, but this Game 3, all hell has broke loose.
And they're just playing aggressive. I think it's down to the draft. They have much more pressure, especially on Talon's end. It does feel like they want to hit these early timings. They want the snowball off the back with his bristleback. And Mikado is going for a much more aggressive build on the Void Spirit as well, going for the Kai Sanj. So with the stats front line, with burst damage on hand, and just gonna have to run around that. They want to prevent Polaris from farming, right? Like, they don't want Natsumi to hit his timings with just the armlet into BKB. You know, you don't want to allow Force to farm up. Polaris is a little bit greedier. With Enigma off lane, even the Wraith Pack takes some time to farm up. Black Hole, not the easiest game to play around, so it's all about utility on the Enigma here. And they're just preventing that from being a factor. Look at the net worth of Force, barely above Q. 400 gold above Q on the Rubik. That's a +4 Rubik. Still level 4 on the Enigma. Q is already level 5, so they've shut down that weaker off lane of Polaris. There's a little bit of greed playing in here with Xavius as well on the Tiny, because, you know, it's a Tiny support. It's gonna need a blink. It's gonna need some space for itself. And that blink is still a ways off as well. So Talon just recognizing this slower timing and trying to run down, because again, down the line, the CK does hit a better mid-game plateau. The Kunkka can go for that Silver Edge you mentioned, breaking out Savage, making him a lot squishier. Spirit Vessel pickup is still a possibility, even for something like the Shadow Demon. You could just give it over to AU if he does manage to find farm, and you just take away the impact of the DP and the Bristle. So Talon are just trying to force these plays while Polaris aren't ready.
For me, I'm really going to be looking at, I think, next Exo for Talon, and also the power rune control now for them. It's going to be very important to be able to enable Makoto, because we saw that in Game 2, it was a throw where he was able to somehow get item after item, and then the impact on the Void Spirit was crazy late game. Of course, the talents are incredible on this hero. Once you can get those items as well to help out with your mobility, it's important, but the kind of before the first two items, it can be a bit awkward with your farming rate. So I like what they've done so far in Talon. You know, Makoto's 3-0. He's had some incredible rotation so far. And they're even considering about still playing bottom to put some pressure onto the tower, but we'll think otherwise.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Back off in the nick of time. Forces back in. Just going to be back to farming for a little bit. They've bought some space out for even Hyde to just play up top. Hit his level 6. Threaten with hookshot. Has the smoke ready for that sort of rotation here as well. And again, Savage is just on his ride up to the Ags. Does skip the brown boots for now. Could have it flying out in the courier. Yeah, has at least the brown boots. But into the Ags after the Vanguard. That key time you talked about there earlier on, Ares. And once that lines up, running down the lane with this bristleback, there's nothing to stop it. You don't have a form of Rick. You don't have even the Urn up yet. Mikado again, even with just say the Kaya-san, just going to feel a lot more impactful compared to the earlier games. And just taking control of the map. Top jungle's completely cut off with wards, and with Hyde constantly shoving in. They haven't been able to play around mid yet here, Ares, but Exorcism's off in about 1 minute, and the BKB of KP is also progressing quite nicely here.
I love how they're playing, though, with this top jungle area on Talon. They know that the Chaos Knight, he can't farm at the triangle, because Conquer wants to be there. You can't farm down bottom, because Enigma needs catch up. So all he can really get at this moment is just the lane farm. So Talon with that aggressive ward that they placed prior, continuing just to run down the Chaos Knight, even though it is under vision, like they are fully aware of this with the cliff ward from Polaris, but you are just continuing to slow down the farm that the CK is finding. Yeah, they have to make a smoke to make a play. They need to be able to reclaim their jungle.
Yeah, you need to find that flank. Good wraparound from Polaris. Might catch Mikado off guard if he's not careful.
Mikado! Oh boy. AU? They see him, but can they get in range? No, just a little bit too late. Meanwhile, bottom lane though, Force, he stepped too far forward. Hyde's going to be in with the hook shot. The TPs are starting to rain in. AU's going to be able to buy some time thanks to the banishment, but it's just the support in Xavier, so he will not have enough damage to turn this around. But at least you do keep Force alive. Mid lane. Lelouch, they've charged up the Exo on KP. Lelouch will be playing with the run buff that it did get stolen on Q. The Remnant drag back into the boat and the telekinesis. Oh, Mr. Q. Beautiful spell casting. And meanwhile, at the triangle, Hyde, he's looking for a solo kill into AU, but now with the illusions out, they can tank the battery assault.
Nah, he's buying so much space for this to happen in mid, though. And no one's coming in to help. No one came in to help Lelouch while he was being dived by 3 heroes because of that movement down bot. The split aggression from Talon paying off there to clear out that mid-tier 1. And, you know, going back to your point about Q, this is why you don't let Q have Rubik. And this is why I was very hesitant to say Hyde would take it, because Q's such a pleasant Rubik player to watch. He just knows how to play it on edge. He's been playing this since Motivate Trust. Hyde, though, might get punished here. Dancing around.
Lelouch will claim it. Yeah, you see how much farm the Rubik is being able to find as well. He's already got Arcane Boots, Keen Optic, that is almost a bunch of net worth in itself for a Rubik, and he's going to be rushing a first item Blink. There's some pretty good abilities to steal. Of course, the classic Black Hole, but even just any stuns, the Avalanche on the Tiny would be great. You're able to steal the Banishment, the Chaos Ball, some great abilities for Q to be playing with.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
It's got a lot. I think you'd be really looking at the Shadow Shaman spells, Shadow Demon spells down the line. Disruption, the Demonic Purge is going to be great if you can find it. And Polaris again has to be a bit weary. 4k lead for Talon early on here as Savage clears out some massive stacks. The Ags inching closer and closer here for the Bristle, and the aggression still lining up.
Kodo's got half his mana pool to play with. Ooh. It's going to be Hyde that gets the angle in with the hook shot. Beautifully done. They might be able to get a rebuttal though. Toss back under the tower. Some great spell casting. Lelouch was already ready with the boat.
Furled your sails, but good.
Natsumi should be fine. The TP's out right now, and that will be the case. Meanwhile, Force's gotten a little bit of catch up as well. Just some damage into the tower. Vlad's is being completed. They're going to be in a position where they have to pop the glyph, but he's got to be cautious though. Makoto's going to TP down. He's got no mana though.
A little bit low. Xavius is around to help out as well. Does have the illusion rune in the bottle, so should be able to top up and has a clarity on hand just in case. But not even finding that first objective here for Polaris does feel pretty massive, and Q's here to top up the bottle on to respawn. So Kato can play aggressive once more.
Oh boy. That's I don't blame him, honestly. He's really far behind. As Hyde again gets the jump on Xavius. It's tiny. He's blink dagger. I mean, he's close to 1600 gold, but these deaths are really not going to help out for him to be able to find that at a decent timing.
Yeah, and it does look like Q's going to be able to find his a little bit faster with the arcane boots on top. So, once that Rubik blinks up, more initiation angles, better spells to steal for Q in the middle of these fights. Going back to your point about the CK Midas, Ares, we've seen this a couple of times, but yeah, it doesn't feel great. We were talking about the armlet timing. Now it's going to be the Midas Echo Saber. Even then, that doesn't feel like enough. You're going to want the BKB before you fight now on the CK. And that just means you're inactive a lot longer than Savage is going to be looking to be proactive. Ags up on the Bristle. Still just a level 1 Nasal Goo, so not the biggest minus arm in the world, but once he gets the levels up with the Ags, just running around up front, you don't have much to stop him from getting that slow, getting that additional damage off.
And they also got BKB onto KP. So you could argue about waiting until level 2 in Exo, but I feel like that's a bit unnecessary with these big items. You get a pick off, it should be instantly into Roshan. They're going to try and part their way to top, make sure they can get a kill in the neighborhood.
Radiant's bottom tower
We
is under
did see
attack.
the Shadow Demon chuck out a poison. Hi. Rocket Flare just shy of the Shadow Demon's position.
Tower has fallen.
So they start into the Roshan. Savage already just getting the damage that they need and not even having to pop the Exo for this one, it looks like. The bot here one does fall, but Polaris is too far away to even jump into the Rosh. They've got information with a war though. Just not going to be there quick enough.
Just feels like they're probably not even in a position to contest this with the Chaos Knight. Going this Midas route, I mean, it's not going to help you at all. There we go. Age is picked up. Blink Dagger on Q. You're going to be looking at some tier 2 towers. KP wasn't forced to pop the Exo. So you are probably going to be thinking about controlling the top jungle and then leading that into the tier 2 tower. It lanes 8. Oh, this is really... It gets his blink, but... Yeah, it'll cost him his life though, nonetheless. But at least he's got his blink now to respawn with.
It's still a big pickup for Polaris. They've finally got an Initiator on hand. We're seeing Force as well. He's not going all in on the Raid Pack. Stays in the Vlad's, going into his own blink. Will want to play with that black hole, but just raises caution about giving openings for Q with his own blink. So we'll see if that will pay off. Talon with her own smoke play, looking to wrap around through the triangle here.
They should know that top safe though, because Bristle TP bottom. This is a really interesting TP from Savage. Like, they don't have an objective here to be able to claim. The Lucius might be able to scout up the smoke. They're going to be able to jump AU instead. Or buy a little bit of time with the banishment, but nonetheless, they will get the kill onto the Shadow Demon. But it's just, they're wasting this Aegis timing. So they will get... Alright, meanwhile to the right side though, Hyde, he's committed without the rest of the team behind him.
Back so soon.
Should be okay for the moment. Waiting for that torrent. Beautifully done from Lelouch, but the combo's going to be off the mark regardless.
This Q again with the stolen disruption. We talked about the Rubik. Such a great game for it. Lots of great spells to steal. And Hyde just stays alive. Yeah, they're not really able to use the Aegis onto objectives just yet, but it's still 3.5 minutes until expiry. Tend to see the teams really start to play with it maybe by the 2-minute mark, and Savage is getting some good pressure down bot. The rest of Polaris kind of playing top. They want to catch out Mikoto.
Black Hole's out from Force. Xavier's gonna make sure he holds the toss to the last second. The damage took him out with the poison. They need one more stack. No way he dodges out into the TP. Where's the vision? No way! Oh god. And they're thinking about high ground here on Talon. Uh-oh, 2 points in Exo, they're ready to go.
yeah, no black hole. Nothing to worry about. Mikado just manages to get the best wasted spells in that time frame. And now Talon are looking at an early high ground. Fortify is there to slow them down. And Savage, despite the Vanguard, can still cop a lot of damage there. Is using his back really well though. And just stand back and kind of just cop it for the team. But without the black hole, it does feel like you're not able to threaten, you're not able to stop this clump up here.
Xavier's. Nice toss back. Under the tier 4 tower he goes as well. Lelouch's got the boat. A BKB still yet to be complete. They're going to drag him further back on Polaris. Beautiful recognition of how they can try and deal with Savage deep inside the base. They stole the boat. The run buff might come out a little bit too late. We see how tanky Savage is at the moment. Mikoto is he with the combo. The double damage rune as well. He'll get the tiny, but still they do lose out on the Brissa back in a Talon. They are way too deep. They need to retreat as a team, but they might not have this capability. A BKB TP out on KP. Q's going to look for his own as well, but well, he won't even try it. In fact, he knows he'll be cancelled in his tracks as Polari is very crafty with that defense, and they're able to stop the Aegis push.
A bit greedy from Talon to go so far. Now they overextend, trying to look for the kills, and the toss back play from Xavius is massive, putting Savage out of position. No BKB yet on him, so he's still very susceptible to all of that control, and they stall out. Talon losing a lot of their lead, 1.4k going the way of Polaris on the back of that trade, but they mitigate their losses. You know, you lose Savage, at least you didn't lose Mikado. Savage is still a massive loss, but you don't want to stall out this Void Spirit's timing. The Ag still has to come true after that Kaya Sanj. Mikado's making decent enough progress, still lacking about 2,000 gold. That's going to be the next power spike for them to play with. Lelouch.
Oh, Q, what's he stolen?
Oh.
Just a time, okay. They are wrapping around though. BKB on cooldown for another 5 seconds. Let's see if they're going to be able to get the damage in prior, and they will. Talon. Alright, wasn't expecting them to ever be in a position to kill the Conquer, but beautifully done, especially with the...
That should help.
Not seeing the openings. They're still waiting for Natsumi's build up. The BKB for the CK is going to come out. He's got space down bot. Blink is ready in force for the black hole. BKB also being farmed up by the Enigma. How effective that will be against a Clockwork Rubik? Probably not too much, but if he finds a good angle, could make it awkward for Hyde to find a hook and for Q to find a steal. So some massive openings there. But speaking of the Rubik here, Q is also going for Ags here. Ooh. So yeah, he's got the farm. You know, he's building into it. Still a ways off, but he's got that Philostone to help speed that up.
I do like this play though, regardless from the Chaos Knight. Just shoving him bottom, forcing Talon to be able to go back and react to this. This will give him now an opportunity to go into their top jungle, claim the outpost, maybe D-ward, get some wards down. And this is where you're looking to take a fight. You've got your abilities ready. So you've got, your abilities and your items now completed. So you are at the kind of the mercy of Talon's initiation. If Force can get the jump, maybe Xavius as well, then Polaris and a choke point could be able to bring this game back.
And they've still got the opportunities. They've still got the scaling that can come out from Natsumi. Does disassemble the Echo Saber for that BKB. Talon already going for the smoke play. A minute and a half for Roche to be back up, or at least a timer to be back up, so no opportunity for that. But a couple of pickoffs can still land him onto the high ground here.
Looks like they will not be able to catch out the Chaos Knight though, farming up top. Again, the Phantasm proving to be a bit of an issue. How they can cut the waves. And it's just going to be a constant thing here for Polaris, looking to avoid, shove out one of the side lanes. As soon as Talon react, you go to the opposite side, but they are under a ward. Talon moving over. Makoto looking to hold Pyrrhus back until the rest of the team's able to show up.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
They've also run into Force down bottom. Xavier's going to be in. Hang on, you cannot kill KP. Gonna try and TP up, but Q's nearby to be able to cancel that. It'll be an easy kill onto the Tiny. They're also looking for more as well into the lane. They will not have anyone else to be able to close the distance though. Savage, no stuns, and Makoto, Remnant was on cooldown. So Polaris, they'll lose the Tiny, but the other members will be able to escape.
And he managed to back off. They might be able to hold off in tier 2. Looks like they're going to have to play high ground now. Talon completely stripping the map of Polaris away. High ground without the Aegis still feels like a risk. We've seen Savage already try last time with the Aegis, didn't work, so might still need that Aegis to try again, but now Savage looks more confident with that BKB, and without the tiny toss back, that same play can't happen again.
Radiant structures are fortified.
They've got multiple ways to cancel this black hole as well, so it feels like it has to be a black hole onto one with a really split up fight, or you need to deal with multiple members on Talon and have them preoccupied to set up for force. It's the call. Polaris, you have the tiny back alive. How do you try and take this engagement? Makoto just completed the scepter as well, but look at the discipline on Talon. They're happy with what they've gotten. A melee barracks, EXO expiring, so they're going to dip out.
Yeah, and they also see that respawn on Xavius. They know what happened the last time they tried to push against that tiny blink tossback. And they'll play it safe. Roche, 2 minutes away. So some time for Polaris to also make a play, and they will smoke out of the base here.
Should be able to recognize this though. No one's kind of pushing the lanes. No one's at the triangle as well where they have this observer ward. So yeah, nice read from Talon backing up to their tier 1 tower. And there's also a read where EXO's on cooldown. The enemy team wants to be fighting whenever the big ultimates are down. So Talon recognizing this, safely positioning Xavius though. KP's got BKB. TP is back up as well if required. And it looks like he's going to be fine.
TP back. They've got an opportunity for a smoke on Talon. Full 5-man here. Not under any vision. Just need to find the angle with a fresh Ags and Mikato.
They are pinging out them being near mid. Maybe they saw the goo on one of the creeps, but they also were able to read Talon coming across the map, and now the outpost will give them confirmation. So both sides are going to be missing out on our smokes, and we're going to be looking towards the next Roche now. We'll be up in a minute. I have a pretty good ward to play with by the cliff to the north.
Almost got the hook out onto Natsumi, blind. The flare came after the fact. That was close. Would have been a massive kill to set up for that Roshan.
Is there anything soon to be completed on Polaris that you feel like might be an issue for Talon?
Silver Edge on Lelouch, probably the next big spike. If they can jump Savage, that's their angle in. BKB for Force as well might catch him off by surprise.
Look at the vision they're getting. The jetpack sees everyone on the high ground. The cogs as well to push Natsumi back down so he doesn't have the greatest position to retreat. A BKB is going to buy in some time. They know the hookshot is on cooldown as well, so the chase will not be there, but I think this almost guarantees the Roche going the way of raiding unless Force is able to get a crazy BKB black hole. CK will not be in a position where he can charge into the middle.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit tough now without that spell immunity on Natsumi. Roshan is up. Savage has the damage to kind of just ride through it now. DD on Mikado as well, though fading already. Have to be wary of their positioning here. Can't stay too clumped up, but it doesn't look like Polaris wants to venture outside her high ground. And that will be second Roche going the way of Tal now. Shard could be massive for Savage or Mikado to find. It does look like they'll hand it to Mikado for the wider range on that Dissimulate. And just more mobility coming through for the Void Spirit. A bit of a TP rotation down bot. They saw Natsumi there.
Yeah, they see him in the lane. I don't know how he's reading this, but Natsumi recognizes they're TPing down. KP's going to see the pathing of the creeps. He won't have a way to cancel this, and he doesn't get the vision until too late anyway for Makoto to jump. So I don't know how he read that, but beautiful read regardless from Natsumi.
Yeah, backs off in the nick of time and manages to save his life. Polaris are fairly clumped up. Savage is sort of alone here.
Maybe they could jump the Rubik if he continues in the lane, but going to go to the triangle instead. Talon making sure they kind of play as a team and no one is split up to be picked off. For Polaris with their initiation, who do you feel like is that #1 target that they have to bring down?
Almost feels like you want to go for a solo play pick off onto Q, and then theoretically you should be able to block off the hook for Force to get a black hole. So ideally you just take care of the Rubik. That's going to be the wild card factor for the rest of your team fight. Once you force him away, Force should be able to just play with a BKB, and you just protect him from the clockwork as best as you can, cut off the angles for the hook shot, and just ride from there. High ground defense of Polaris is still great. Threat of black hole, threat of throwback. It's difficult for Talon to deal with. You can see them again playing it a little bit safe, even with the Aegis up, cutting back a little bit. They've got the full Ags on Q though, so the double spell steal's there. Cast range is a lot better as well. It's not going to be too challenging to find those black holes every time.
It's so fun. What's going on? Philosopher's Stone Gaming out here on Q. He is chilling with his farm. Who wants a reality rift? Come on, get a better ability here for Mr. Q. I guess 7 minus armor and Savage, you'll take whatever you can get, but Polaris smoking outside the base, maybe seeing if they can catch up. Makoto sticking around for a little bit too long. He's under a ward. Makoto vulnerable to the jump. It's a 4-second stun as well. With Natsumi nearby with a Phantasm, they'll have plenty of damage.
No counterplay out from Talon. A very important pickoff for Polaris to kind of stall that high ground to get some gold going their way. Big kill to find, but Talon's still in position with the hook shot. Just need to find a good angle. They do scout out with the CK illusion, so not going to be the easiest time in coming up, and they did have vision down as well. So still not able to play with that Aegis yet. DD out for Savage. Could be nice to pick up and chase. Whoa, hook.
Oh. I was like, what's going on? Where is hooking? Deeping out into
missed.
Off the mark again. So this is a bit of a pipe dream, but if AU can somehow make his way towards the scepter, that is going to be huge for them. I think it's going to take quite some time, but I think he has that one item you want now in the 4-staff, so the clockwork is not going to be too much of an issue.
Yep. And that's already pretty big in at least saving a couple of heroes here, but that Ags is still pivotal. He is queuing it up, 3,000 or so gold away, so a lot more time necessary, and unfortunately for him, nothing like a Philosopher's Stone as well.
Oh, he's got a DD! Oh my lord. At least he's not level 25 yet on Savage, but yeah, plus 526 damage. Nothing wrong. Oh, there we go. That's a big target, but the toss onto the T4 towers. They might be able to get the first life. Savage, he's got to go down because the rest of Talon, they're going to try and deal with AU. Someone needs to go back to protect Savage. The black hole's out. Stolen from Q, but Rubik, he's trying to get into the middle of the fight. Oh. There we go. The stolen black hole. On to 2 as Q's done it. He's able to protect 23 Savage. They're swarming towards Xavier's location as it tips a well-deserved Q. Gives him an opportunity to take this team fight. What a player!
Oh my god, that was on knife's edge, but Xavius throws out the avalanche early, throws out the toss as well, nothing to cancel the stolen black hole, and with the Ags, that reach of spell steal, it's your entire screen. He can reach it from a mile away, and again, black hole, it's not the hardest spell to steal off, so just turn around, jump back forward, provide that opportunity for Savage, forcing out 3 buybacks. Polaris hang on to the mid-set of racks, but with no buybacks, one little team fight is all it's going to take here.
They'll get whatever they can get. Tiny just brought back. AU on the side. They're going to get the Shadow Demon as well. Makoto with the double silence. Rocket Flare to see the Shadow Demon's positioning. With the close, it's not a possibility for Talon, but that's Tiny down 70 seconds with Black Hole on cooldown. Base is going to be under siege.
Creep Wave still a little bit far out. Down mid, even the side lanes aren't quite shoved in yet. They've got ample time, no toss back. That's what Polaris has been playing around with to secure those kills onto Savage. He's got the opening to just go for the full mega creeps. One last rack standing bot. Reminiscent of game 2. Small back from Polaris here though.
Natsumi, Makoto's going to get the initiation first. They're trying to target on Savage, but this bristleback is unkillable. As Savage wants blood. Behind the throne they go. They'll double back to deal with the Conquer. Lelouch is out. Down for the count. 100 seconds. That's a dieback. And back towards the objectives as Talon. And they've done it. Congratulations. Polaris will call it. Talon will be the 3rd team to represent Southeast Asia in ESL 1 Genting.
Yeah, it's quite the turnaround for Talon. You know, game 1 was a lot more back and forth, very even. Game 2, it looked like Polaris was just going to have it. And game 3 comes out, the draft flies by for Talon. We saw them use no reserve time. They knew what they wanted. They kicked things into gear. and they play spectacularly well. Polaris, they go into this Enigma pick. It has a rocky time. That bristleback pickup from Talon was just excellent. It just had everything to deal with that. They go with a Savius Tiny as well, which the blink time was just thrown so far off. Like the greed you're getting with the Enigma offlane along with a Tiny 4 is just way too much. And we've seen that issue for Tiny 4 before, where your offlaner just wants to farm. You can't make plays. You miss out on some early aggression with, say, your level 3 timing with the threat of the toss back and the avalanche combination. You don't get to rotate mid. You don't get the blink early enough to make plays. Talon just works that aggression well in a big shakeup from the previous games, right? Like, the last few games were a lot slower in the first 10 minutes. This time around, we saw way more kills, way more aggression. And Polaris put up, again, such a great fight. They bounced back after, let's face it, a pretty atrocious 2 or 3, right? Like, this is a lineup that came